Welcome back to Arrowhead Stadium. Special night for Chiefs general manager John Dorsey, drafted by the Packers back in 1984 as a linebacker, played there for 5 seasons, and spent the last 13 seasons as a member of the Green Bay front office. For more on his story tonight, we go down to the third member of our team on the field, Rachel Sanchi.
Thanks, guys. John Dorsey obviously facing his former team tonight, and when we talked earlier, he said being with an organization for 28 years, he's developed lifelong friendships, but he's looking forward and he's happy to be with the Chiefs Kingdom. We also talked about those second-round cuts that are coming up, and he said that he's taking everything into consideration. He told the guys, go compete. If you want the job, take it. So tonight is their last chance to audition for those jobs.
All right, Rachel, thank you. And a big night just beyond what he's thinking about, looking at the other side of the field with his old friends and teammates over there as we see Andy Reid on the Chiefs sideline. You got to get from 75 to 53 in the next couple days.
Well, that's going to be a tough decision for him. We talked about how well the special teams has played, and that's generally what makes up the bottom part of your roster is the guys that are going to be your second and third running backs, the guys that are going to be your fourth, fifth corners, the guys that are going to be your third, fourth safeties. Those are the guys that are going to be your special teams guys, your backup linebackers. So that's what tonight's all about, is evaluating and picking those guys.
Back deep to receive, A.J. Jenkins, the newest Chief. Thought about it for a second, said, yeah, I'll bring this out. And he gets out to the 16-yard line. So Andy Reid has made the decision to rest his starters on both sides of the football tonight. That means an excellent opportunity for Chase Daniels. You see what he's done statistically in the first 3 games. And tonight's starting lineups, tonight's Truman Medical starting lineups. And you look up front, and that's who we're going to see. It's not going to be Eric Fisher. It's not going to be Brandon Albert. There's the group, and there's the group out wide. And we're going to get a good long look at Travis Kelce. Important for the tight ends tonight, especially with Tony Moeaki out for at least the majority of the season with a fractured shoulder, an injury he unfortunately suffered last week against Pittsburgh. Nile Davis is the tailback behind Chase Daniel, whose first play comes from the shotgun. Nice pocket for Chase, little touch pass, and he threw it right to the Green Bay Packers. Tramon Williams hauls that one in, and one play, one turnover for the Chiefs.
Well, it's definitely not the start you want to have if you're Chase Daniel. Nice job by the offensive line, giving him protection. You can see Chase goes through 2 or 3 hitches as he's making his read, and it appears that he just locks in on his receiver because the corner is out there in front of the play. There's nobody there to take Williams out of the play. So, unfortunately, unfortunate start for Chase and this Chiefs team.
Just as Chase Daniel getting the start, the backup quarterback for the Chiefs, the backup quarterback for the Packers as well. As Chase gets coached up there by Doug Peterson and also Andy Reid. Vince Young leading the way for the Green Bay Packers. He was signed mid-training camp, had a nice outing last week, and he gets the nod tonight as the Packers released Graham Harrell, who had been the backup quarterback in Green Bay. And the running back is Eddie Lacy off the left side. Nice job by that Chiefs defense. And that is no gain. We take a look at Chase Daniels' interception here, and we see that A.J. Jenkins fell down, Trent.
Well, yeah, he has a slip. He's not completely clean with his route running, and that could cause some of the timing miscues with Chase. But once again, you got to be able to see out in front of the receiver, and I don't want to put all the blame on A.J. and obviously this is you get locked in. You know what the opening play is. You know what you want to do, and you've hit that play several times during the week, and you're excited about getting the play and getting A.J. involved in the game plan, and those are all things that kind of go through your mind as you're trying to execute the play.
As the Chiefs look for their wide receivers and who are going to be the supplements after Dwayne Bowe, the big trade last week. And we'll get back to that conversation after the break. It's early in Kansas City. It's 0-0. Well, until moments ago, the Chiefs had not thrown an interception through 3 games of the preseason. Chase Daniel just threw his first on the first play, his first pass. And Vince Young and the Green Bay offense right now facing 2nd down and 10 on the 35-yard line. Chase going to get a lot more snaps tonight as the starter's not playing for Kansas City, so Alex Smith will be watching from the sideline. Eddie Lacy for the 2nd time in a row, this time off the right side. Tackle that time, gain of 2. Quentin Demps makes the tackle for that Chiefs D. Here are tonight's Truman Medical starting lineups on the defense. Again, these are the backups getting an excellent chance to show their worth on this defense and really on this entire team, including special teams, those that play there, because the next step for John Dorsey, the general manager, cutting from 75 down to 53. Tonight's the final chance for a lot of these backups to impress. 3rd down and 9 for Vince Young. And Chiefs defense calls a timeout. There's Bob Sutton, the defensive coordinator. We talked a lot before that first game, Trent, about what would his defenses look like. They were so aggressive with the overload blitz with the Jets when he was under Coach Ryan there. What have you seen in 3 games?
Well, and that's where you have to find a balance in the preseason, is how much do you actually show and how much do you keep under your hat for the regular season. And if I think, you look back to the Pittsburgh game, they didn't do a lot of blitzing, but they had timely blitzes. There were several times they overloaded one side. I can think, for instance, Tyson Hartman had a sack last week where they brought two defensive backs from one side and dropped out Tamba Hali on the other. So there were times throughout the preseason that they showed some of those combinations, but of course you don't want to show too much with the regular season right around the corner.
If this was a regular season game on 3rd down and 9, you'd expect a heavy blitz. And they bring 4 here. Vince Young stepping up in the pocket, going to keep it himself. And the Chiefs in the pursuit, led by Darren Drakeford, keep Vince Young from reaching that 1st down.
Well, and this is something that Vince Young has a long history of doing. If the play breaks down right now, the Chiefs are only rushing 4, so you drop 7 into coverage. And right there, Bradley McDougall comes flying up from the secondary position and forces Vince Young, who looks like he has an angle for the 1st down. Nice job, good rally by the secondary of the Chiefs to come up there and prevent the 1st down.
Linebacker Darren Drakeford, we talk about that this being the final opportunity to make an impression. He goes sideline to sideline and chases down Vince Young. Not a bad start to his night. Mason Crosby right down the middle. They convert the Chase Daniel interception into 3 points. 12:53 left, the Packers 3-0. We are just underway here at Arrowhead Stadium, preseason game number 4. Chase Daniel with the Chiefs' first interception of the preseason, threw it on the very first play of the game. Mason Crosby field goal makes it 3-0. A.J. Jenkins back deep to receive. Brought the first one out to the 16-yard line moments ago.
Well, and I think the positive you have to take out of that, and you're trying to find as many positives as you can based on what just happened, is the defense's response. It was a quick change. They came out on the field. They forced them into a 3-and-out, and ultimately Green Bay got a field goal, but that was not because of the defense.
So Chase Daniel anxious to get back out after what wasn't his best showing there in that first throw. Have been an active preseason for him so far up against his old team in New Orleans. He went 6 out of 10. Against San Francisco, he was 6 out of 6, but also had lots of issues with the protection up front. And last week, 14 out of 24, 152 yards, and a touchdown, including the game winner to Rico Richardson in overtime. There is Alex Smith taking this one in from the sideline. You wonder how much he's thinking about watching his teammates tonight and also thinking about 10 days down the road, the season opener at Jacksonville. Right back to the air, Chase Daniel gets on track. Junior Hemingway caught a touchdown pass last week from Alex Smith, and that's a gain of 7.
Well, the production of the quarterbacks, you just went through the numbers that Chase had, and he's done a very good job protecting the football. Alex Smith as well, when they've had opportunities to put the ball down the field. That's something that both these players are known for, is being smart and efficient with the football, and that's really what Andy Reid is asking of his quarterbacks. Be smart and efficient with the football. You've got a good defense, you've got a good running game, and you've got some receivers with big play potential.
That's Val Davis. He had the touchdown return to the kickoff last week at Pittsburgh, the 3rd-round rookie out of Arkansas. And this has really been the workhorse in the backfield. Jamal Charles has gotten some time and run out there a little bit, and he hasn't been dinged up or anything. But now Davis has been the man in terms of carries so far.
Well, he has. He's put together a nice preseason. He had some problems early in the preseason with his pass protections, and that's the thing that's going to happen to any young running back, is they have a hard time transitioning from college to the NFL in terms of pass protection. That's where a lot of guys get lost in the shuffle, and that's going to be important for Nile if he wants to get on the field during the regular season, is to be able to pick those things up.
Part of the passing game there as a pass receiver out of the backfield and swings it out to the right tackle made by Robert Francois, and it's going to be 4th down and 2. There's Nile Davis. And there is Jamal Charles, resting tonight like the rest of the Chiefs starters, but he will be active in 10 days in Jacksonville, and I'm anxious to see how how much a part of the passing game he is, in addition to getting those 15, 20, 25 carries.
Well, and I think that's important to remember. He may not have as many carries as he had in previous seasons in terms of rushing yards, but in terms of overall touches, when you're talking about receptions and carries, it's got to be important to remember that Andy Reid in Philadelphia with Brian Westbrook and with LaShawn McCoy, they utilize the back out of the backfield. They find different ways to get the ball in his hands, and that's going to be how Jamal will be used this season.
He'll watch the Chiefs defense. You can do the same right after this. 3-0 after the Chase Daniel interception and the Mason Crosby field goal. There is Andy Reid after 14 seasons as the head coach in Philadelphia, now still very early in his tenure in Kansas City. Vince Young, the quarterback here for the Green Bay Packers. Jonathan Franklin, rookie 4th-round pick out of UCLA, to his right. Vince Young complete there, and that is a Green Bay first down. Young's completion goes for 14 yards. Tackle made by Hussein Abdullah.
When you could see Hussein Abdullah working in the slot there. That was something that he had to do a week ago when Quentin Demps wasn't playing, and he did a very productive job. So now all of a sudden when you start talking numbers, 3, 4, 5 safeties, are you thinking 4, 5, 6 corners? Do you have safeties that can play the slot? Do you have safeties that can do coverage? All of a sudden that creates some issues when you're trying to figure out your roster and who your special teams guys are. And it's a good problem to have when you have safeties that can cover.
Nice job of pursuit there by Frank Zombo. Moments ago on the last drive, we saw Darren Drakeford come from that direction and chase down Vince Young. Zombo getting it done there to keep that to a short gain for Green Bay.
You can see Frank Zombo will be coming from the right side of the screen. He does a nice job coming down the line of scrimmage, pursuing, but you can see he maintains leverage. He keeps that leverage, so if the cutback happens, he's right there to make the tackle. You got Zach Dials pursuing from the inside, but with Zombo maintaining backside, there's no cutback, no room for the running back to take it all the way around.
Knows the Packers pretty well. Played the last 3 seasons in Green Bay. Vince Young there inaccurate. And that's incomplete, looking for Jeremy Ross. Bring up 3rd down and 6. Again, in the regular season, we'd expect a heavy blitz here, but preseason, Bob Sutton might hold off on one of his fancier looks that he would show in this spot in 10 days.
Well, and as we mentioned earlier, it was something that, you go back to the last 3rd down where Vince Young was tackled on the scramble. They had 7 guys up in the box, and they dropped everybody into coverage and only rushed 4, and it appears that they're doing the same thing here. You have a lot of bodies up around that box. 7 guys near the line of scrimmage. Just depends on how many guys drop out into coverage, and they bring 6.
And that's a blitz, and they get to Young. He steps up and gets rid of it. He avoids the sack, but the Chiefs pressure getting it done there and forcing the incompletion. Marcus Dixon in there, Frank Zombo as well.
When you put that type of pressure on a quarterback and you close that down, there's no passing lane. Sometimes if you close that pocket enough, you can see Vince takes his eyes, those initial couple steps, his eyes weren't downfield anymore. He was just trying to find a place to escape and slide over. Then he's able to get his eyes back up before he gets hit. But by no means are you going to have an accurate throw when you've got that tight of a pocket to get out of.
Frankie Hammond Jr., the undrafted free agent wide receiver out of Florida, back to receive, calls for the fair catch and puts that one on the ground, and he pounced back on it. Not what Dave Tobe wants to see out of a rookie trying to make the team. And there is Dave Tobe, whose units have been, for the most part, excellent so far in the preseason. We'll get a look at the Chiefs offense once again right after this. Make all the games at Arrowhead the Pick 5 plan, the Divisional 3-pack, or the Pack 2 might just be for you. Visit kcchiefs.com to make your choice today, or contact the Chiefs ticket office right now at 888-99-CHIEFS. Chiefs fans of all ages here, and with all kinds of ways to support the team. Lots of outfits out there, Trent. There's not just, it's not just about wearing a jersey with number 10.
There's a few of them around, not many, but it's a warm night. You can see everybody using their programs as fans. You mentioned that it's more like August baseball weather, right? This is
yes.
Summer has finally hit Kansas City after being pretty mild.
Now Davis, the rookie off the left side, tackle made by Mike Daniels. And Chase Daniel, when I watch Chase Daniel in his career in the National Football League here, Trent, 4th season, it's amazing to me how much trust he has built up without really playing that much. You look at New Orleans, they trusted him to be the backup to Drew Brees. Not the 3rd-string quarterback, but one play away from leading that franchise, just like they're doing right now in Kansas City.
Well, and I think that goes without saying that has to do with his preparation. Not only does he have the skill set to play, but a lot of people want to make issue with his height. Is he able to see over his offensive line to make a play? And this time he has a nice pocket. He steps up in the pocket, and he fires the ball to Kelsey for the first down. But Chase Daniel does a nice job of understanding game plans, understanding how to study film, how to prepare. A lot of that comes with spending time with Drew Brees, because that's how he's established himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, having time with Sean Payton. You know, those are all factors that have helped establish Chase and the type of quarterback he wants to be.
And that was the Chiefs' first down on the completion from Daniel to the rookie third-round selection, Travis Kelsey. And you mentioned it, and I think that football people around the league respect that he was in a room with Sean Payton and Drew Brees day after day after day for 3 seasons. So if he has to play, they trust him, but they also trust how he's going to work with Alex Smith and mentor Tyler Brett.
Well, and I think that's important to remember. You talk about being in a room with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and the communication level that those two have. I've known Drew for a long time, and I've known Sean for a long time as well. And when those two get together, and I've talked to them about game planning and how they put together their plays in year one, the two of them go over the script. They go over the terminology they want to use. They go through things in the offseason about how they want to handle things, how they want to progress the offense. You know, this is a team that won a Super Bowl several years ago, but the offense has continued to grow as different weapons have come in and out of the door in New Orleans. And Chase being involved in all those conversations, it's only helped expand his knowledge and understanding of not only offenses in the National Football League, but how you want to attack defenses. So you bring that knowledge now into a room with Alex Smith, who's been through a lot, you know, Andy Reid, who's been through a lot, Doug Peterson, who's been a player and a coach. You've got a lot of smart football people in a room.
Chase gets it back to the initial line of scrimmage, and we saw this last week a little bit. You don't think of Chase as highly athletic, but if he has to turn it on and put his head down and get some yards, he can do it. He did it last week in Pittsburgh at least once in a crucial situation.
Well, and I talked to Chase about that just a few days ago, is that 3rd and 16 in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh went to a 22-man coverage, which means underneath coverage is man-to-man, 2 safeties over the top, but nobody's assigned to the quarterback, and he recognized that, and it just happened to be the play that was called was an all-go play, and so he knew he could pick up the first down with his feet, and that time he's under pressure and just throws it a little bit behind Kelsey.
And I think the pressure led to that incompletion because the rookie tight end, Travis Kelsey, had a couple steps there, but because of that pressure, the ball was underthrown.
Well, and it's hard to get the ball up the field. He's trying to throw it up the left numbers here, but when you can't step, you can see right there, one of his linemen is down at his feet, and that's center Eric Cush. And when you have somebody and you can't really step into it, trying to make an accurate 30 to 40-yard throw down the field makes it that much more difficult when you can't use your feet.
Micah Hyde back to receive for the Packers. Fair catch at the 29-yard line. 6:38 left in the first quarter. Chase Daniel going to rest a moment and watch the Chiefs defense. They'll be on the field right after this.
Welcome back to Arrowhead Stadium, 3-0 Green Bay, and it is hot here. They gave me this before the game, but I think it's too hot. It actually broke, so I reverted to my phone, and it's about in the high 90s down here. Everybody has towels, sweating, water, so we're hoping that as the game goes on, it gets a little cooler, but it's not looking very promising.
All right, Rachel. And Trent, you know what I always think of when it's really hot during the preseason? It's not easy for a quarterback to throw a wet ball.
You know,
right?
It's not, and that's the problem with
your center sweats all over it.
Exactly. So the wristbands become very valuable when it comes to the sweat part of things.
I know you wanted to complain about that, so I put it right there in your wheelhouse. Set you up for that. Jonathan Franklin, the rookie 4th-round pick out of UCLA, and the quarterback for Green Bay, B.J. Coleman, he was selected last year.
Well, you know, the real problem with the sweat on the football isn't necessarily, you know, the sweat coming down your hands. It's when the center sweats a lot and he gets over the top of the football and all the sweat is dripping out of his helmet onto the football.
Right.
So then when you get the ball, it's like half the ball's dry, half the ball's wet. It's like, come on.
Come on, Casey.
That's right.
Clean that up. Note from the Chiefs sidelines, Devin Wiley, hamstring injury, is out for the night, and he will not come back. This will be 2nd down and 8. The Chiefs bring a blitz, and B.J. Coleman throws inaccurately. And that's a case right there where the statistic of sack, Trent, can be misleading. Because you look at sacks, well, they didn't sack the quarterback, but they did just force an incompletion.
Well, and I think if you talk to defensive linemen and linebackers, the guys that are rushing the passer, you know, the fact that now they have the outside the box and you can throw it, that nobody has to be around, just has to get back to the line of scrimmage. You know, there's a lot of guys angry about that because it cost them some sack. But that right there was definitely a hurried throw, didn't allow the Packers to get on time, Quarterback has to get the ball out of his hands quickly, which in turn, that pressure, it's just like a sack in that it causes an incompletion.
Here comes another blitz. And a nice job of getting out of the way, but he throws it right to Frank Zombo, the former Green Bay Packer and first-year Kansas City Chief, with the pick, taking it inside the 15-yard line.
Well, and you said it, Paul. Frank Zombo coming over from the Packers. Even though this is a preseason game, it's always fun to play well against your former team. Does a nice job just sitting right in coverage. He reads the quarterback all the way. He initially starts out running with the tight end on a drag route, and he just drops right into the middle, falls off of that receiver, and that's really what tricked the quarterback. Young quarterbacks have to use their eyes and be able to see all of that, and Zombo does a nice job of baiting him into serving one up for him. Nice job.
Zombo joined the Packers as an undrafted free agent in 2010. Actually started for them during their Super Bowl run in 2010. Been a role player the last couple of seasons, and trying to make the team with the Chiefs for the first time. Chase Daniel, nice job of dumping it off to the open man. That open man is Niall Davis. Sidesteps out of bounds. Daniel to Davis. And that is a gain of 7.
Well, nice job by Chase. That time there, he was under duress. There wasn't a lot of time to look upfield, and he got to his swing route, and right as he throws the ball, he ends up on the ground. So nice job making an accurate throw. He puts it in a position where Niall can run through the catch. Instead of having to turn back, catch it on his back hip, get his body out of control, he's able to catch it in stride and work his way up the sideline for a nice gain.
Davis been the number 2 back the entire preseason, the main supplement to Jamal Charles. Chase Daniel, he had time initially there, Trent. Didn't see anything he liked, and you knew what was coming. You hold on to that thing long enough, and you're going to go down. Tackle made by, or the sack, for Johnny Jolly.
Well, and unfortunately for Chase, I know that's, I have a hard time being critical of quarterbacks, okay? I'm going to say it, Paul. I have a hard time being critical of quarterbacks. But that time there, you have to understand it's 2nd and 2. You're on your own 7-yard line. You look at the flat, it's covered. You look at Kelsey in the corner, he's covered. We used to call it a fire pass. You're coming back, your fullback fakes like he's going to block. He goes to the flat, your tight end goes to the corner. It's a 1-2 read, get rid of it. Unfortunately for Chase, he tried getting back to his 3rd progression, and by that time, things had closed down for him, and he took the sack.
3rd down and 10. The blitz gets to him there as well. Back-to-back sacks for the Packers. That one by Micah Hyde, the rookie out of Iowa.
Well, now all of a sudden, you go from a 2nd and 2 inside the 10 to now you're putting your kicker at a bigger disadvantage. Now, Ryan Succop, this is well within his range, but you start talking about accuracy and moving back. In a regular season game, you'd like to see Chase get rid of this ball. That's an unblocked defender coming off the edge, and he had plenty of time to get rid of that ball because of the depth that the defender came from.
Anytime a blitzer gets there from that deep in the defensive backfield, you can call that a coverage sack because it took them a while to get there. Penalty markers come out, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Succop kicks it through anyway.
Encroachment, number 97, defense. 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
Move it up, and now the attempt will be 37 yards for Ryan Succop, who has yet to miss in the preseason. Looking to even the score at 3 after the Packers got 3 points from Mason Crosby. Chase Daniel's first pass, the first play of the game, was intercepted by Tremont Williams. Chiefs defense held. The Crosby field goal made it 3-0. And now Ryan Succop just sneaks that one inside. And we've got a 3-3 ball game. 37 yards out, and Succop now 7 for 7 this preseason. Frank Zombo. Those points go to him. In addition to Succop, he had the interception and the return of 27 yards to set that up. There's Warpaint. He was active during the Trent Green era, right?
No, they brought Warpaint back after. That was something that they had tried doing for a number of years and eventually got it done. So there's some great history with Warpaint, obviously, and but that was not my era, no.
Alex Green back deep to receive for the Packers after the Ryan Suckup field goal from 37 yards out. And he makes it out to the 21-yard line. 2 scoring drives tonight, both pretty ugly. Green Bay, 4 plays, 5 yards, leading to a Mason Crosby field goal after an interception. Kansas City, 4 plays, Trent for -5 yards. That's not the prettiest scoring drive, but it counts for 3 points anyway.
Well, and it comes back to those 2 sacks. Really, you get inside the 10-yard line, you got 2nd and 2. You feel pretty good about what you're going to be able to get done, and the double sacks pushes you back. But nice job by Zombo on the last defensive series, baiting the quarterback into throwing that pick. He started trailing the tight end and then fell off right into that. Nice job using his eyes and understanding the Green Bay offense. He was there for 4 years, so he knows the progression and what the plays, how they tend to develop.
And not only there, as I mentioned, he was a starter at times during that Super Bowl winning season in Green Bay. Jonathan Franklin keeping his feet there, out past the 25-yard line, gain of 6, tackle made by Alan Bailey. I think about Frank Zombo trying to make this team, and really all the backups tonight, Trent, on both sides of the ball, because Andy Reid making the decision starters would not play. I go back to a conversation I had with Mike Smith, who's now the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, back when he was the defensive coordinator in Jacksonville, and I was meeting with him about his team. And he kept referencing all these backups that they were cross-training. And I stopped him and said, what do you mean you're cross-training? He goes, well, all these guys trying to make the team. If you're a backup safety, you better be able to play corner. If you're a backup inside linebacker, we should be able to trust you at outside linebacker. So all these guys who are out here now trying to make the team need to do more than just one thing well, need to be trusted at more than one spot.
Well, and we touched on it a couple series ago with Hussein Abdullah. He was, I guess, because of injuries to Demps, he all of a sudden was playing the slot last week, and he responded very well. And it's like, okay, all of a sudden your eyes open up to now not only can he play both safety spots, but now in a nickel and dime situation, he can be a coverage guy in slot. When you're coming and trying to figure out who your linemen are going to be, who you're going to dress on game day, you have to have a tackle that can play both right and left. You have to have someone that can play all 3 interior spots. And you nailed it, Paul, when you said that guys have to be able to do a number of different things.
Take a look at Hussein Abdullah, it's a name we've mentioned quite a bit here in the last 3.5 games.
And once again, they put him in the slot, and that's his job. And you can see he does a good job. There's nowhere for the quarterback to get into it. Unfortunately, on the outside, it's just a stop route, and Robinson is running up the field thinking it's going to be more of a go route. And nice timing for a couple of young players for Green Bay to be on the same page to pick up that first down, because Robinson was in position for a go route.
Coleman off the play action, looking deep. And Jaleel Brown, another name we've mentioned a lot at corner. And since these corners keep showing up on back-to-back plays here, Trent, I'm going to ask you a question that I've asked you a number of times here in the preseason, but now that we're into preseason game number 4, your answer probably has a little bit more conviction, a little more depth to it as we get close to the final cuts. After Smith, after Flowers, after Robinson, which of the corners do you feel good about being here?
Well, and I think it's important, Jaleel Brown, we show him right there, and he's the guy that they're counting on. This is his 3rd year here. He's a 4th-round pick out of Colorado, and he's been here long enough. They want to see him taking those strides and being that guy they can rely on to be the 4th corner that you're going to dress on game day, that you can rely on if something would happen to Smith or to Flowers or to Robinson on game day, you can put him in the game. If you're in a dime personnel, you can put him in the game. So I'm interested to see him play tonight, and he's probably going to play this entire game.
How about the safety position? Also knowing that Sanders Cummings, a mid-round draft pick this year who they like a lot, sitting out with a broken collarbone right now. He's probably in the mix, but he hasn't been able to play in the preseason so far. Well,
and that's, you start talking about, they have different categories now. You could put somebody on a PUP list and you lose them for 6 weeks, and then you have the short IR and you have a full season IR. And, they've changed some of those rules because management was complaining to the league council, in terms of numbers of bodies on game day. And so really with Cummings' injury and the fact that he hasn't been able to play, that's going to be one of those roster moves that it's going to happen either tomorrow or Saturday, that you're trying to position guys. And same thing with Moiaki. We move over to the tight end position. Moiaki, is that a short-term injury, a long-term injury? Do you put him on a full season IR? how that handle is going to determine, what happens with your other tight end position. Is it Kevin Brock, who's played very well the last couple weeks? Is he all of a sudden have a position on the roster? Travis Kelce getting a lot of opportunities tonight because he's been banged up with injuries. But that's where a lot of this comes into play, is your safety position, tight end position, wide receiver positions, cornerback position in terms of making this team.
Frankie Hammond Jr. almost broke that second tackle. Tackle made by Jonathan Franklin. That's what a rookie running back has to do. Make tackles on special teams. We have a penalty marker down on the 47-yard line.
Well, and you see Frankie Hammond Jr. was on that return, and he got close to breaking it to the outside, but he's a guy that's going to benefit. Let's hear what they're going to have to say here. I think it's ineligible downfield.
Ineligible downfield prior to the kick on the kicking team. 5-yard penalty.
So Hammond Jr. is going to get another chance at the return as they move the Packers back. But Hammond Jr., this is going to be a good opportunity for him. Unfortunately for Devin Wiley, he was one of those guys competing for that 5th and 6th wide receiver spot, and we don't know the extent of his injury. We know that he has a hamstring. We know that he's not coming back tonight. But now all of a sudden, you start looking at numbers. Donnie Avery, A.J. Jenkins will be there. Dwayne Bowe, Dexter McCluster, they're going to be there. Now all of a sudden you start getting to your other guys. Who's going to be your 5th and 6th guy? You generally keep 6 wide receivers. You're not dressing 6 on game day, but you keep your 6 on your 53. So with Wiley down, how extensive of an injury does he have, and what opportunities are created, and who's going to take advantage of that tonight to sneak into those positions?
Punt goes out of bounds, and that'll be the end of quarter number 1 in preseason game number 4. Game of field goals and interceptions so far. We head to the second quarter tied at 3. First quarter in the books. We had field goals from Mason Crosby and also from Ryan Suckup, and the score is all tied at 3. Starters not playing tonight. Andy Reid making the decisions. The starters on offense and defense going to sit and watch, get ready for the game in 10 days at Jacksonville. So Chase Daniel has been the only quarterback to play right now for Kansas City. Alex Smith on the sidelines. Chase Daniel in that first quarter, his first pass was intercepted. Had a couple moments of moving the team, but on the last drive, they were set up in good position inside the 15-yard line on the interception by Frank Zombo. But pressure got to Chase 2 times in a row, 2 sacks in a row. Pushed that drive back and led to a field goal. Chase Daniel right now 4 out of 7 for 27 yards and 1 pick.
Well, once again, we're going to be talking all night long about the different roster moves and the different roster spots. Guys that are going to be trying to make this roster, and we've talked it several times about, the tight end position, wide receiver position. Now with Devin Wiley down, this creates opportunity for the other guys and getting a chance to make plays. That's what's going to be so important, not only here in the second quarter, but as the game carries on, is making that impression to John Dorsey, making that impression to Andy Reid, so that make those decisions difficult when it all goes down here the next couple days.
Bring up 3rd down and 9. And there's Andy Reid. He'll be a part of also the thought process, the decision making of making the cuts from 75 down to 53. Getting one last chance to evaluate the backups, the third teamers, who they think can make a contribution during the regular season. They're only going to see them one more time in full pads and game action before they have to make that call, and that is tonight. Exact same thing that you're watching. Chase Daniel looking for A.J. Jenkins. A lot of contact down there with Brandon Smith. No flags and an incomplete pass.
Well, I want you to see a lot of defensive players are going to be mad about this because they're going to think offensive position, but the defense is holding on there as well. But Jenkins uses that left arm to create some position. The problem is he can't get it back to be able to get 2 hands on the ball. They call it an arm bar, and he had that left arm extended. He's got to realize, if you're going to use the arm bar, you've got to be able to get that other hand up there, so gives you a chance to catch the ball. So if there's going to be some battling back and forth, and that's really become the way things are called in the National Football League, AJ has to understand when that ball's getting close to get after it.
Dustin Colquitt, a beautiful punt. He's been a star throughout the preseason, as expected. So Micah Hyde with the fair catch, and that's a punt and a net of 60 yards.
Well, in the special teams, you talked about that ball in the open, and we've talked about it continually throughout the preseason, is the strength of the special teams is, what we've had so far in the preseason has been the return game. But let's not forget, you mentioned Ryan Suckup hasn't missed a field goal the entire preseason. Dustin Colquitt making the Pro Bowl a year ago and signing a long-term contract to be a part of this organization for a while.
All right, we now have a three-man booth, and the third man is the most important man in the building, the Chief CEO and Chairman Clark Hunt. Thanks for being with us once again. Number of things to discuss here. Let's get started with your number 2 of the partnership with the University of Kansas Hospital and the Chiefs organization.
Well, it's a tremendous partnership, and we're so lucky to be affiliated with a quality medical institution like the University of Kansas Hospital. We've got their doctors on the sideline. Our fans have the opportunity to go to clinics in the stadium that are staffed by University of Kansas Hospital folks. And then here in a couple weeks, we're going to open up a sports medicine center in our training facility that's going to be available to the public 7 days a week. If they have problems, they can come get an MRI, get an X-ray, have the same doctors that are looking after the Chiefs look after them.
Second down, 13 now coming up for the Packers. Vince Young back in the game. And Green Bay out near, I believe, out past the first down stick, and that'll be a first down, Green Bay.
Well, the fan experience here at Arrowhead is great with the renovations that happened a few years ago, but talk about the continuing growth of the fan experience and what you want to get done. There's Wi-Fi and mobile apps and just really trying to create a better game day experience for the fans.
Well, everybody loves their mobile device, and they all bring it to the stadium. I do the same thing, and you want to be able to use it in the stadium. And so we felt it was important to get Wi-Fi in the building, and that's part of our new initiatives in terms of the fan experience this year. We've introduced Wi-Fi. We'll be fine-tuning it over the next several weeks and testing it as we have bigger and bigger crowds going into the regular season.
Nice play there by Jaleel Brown. We've talked about him a number of times here in the preseason, and also tonight made the tackle there to keep that a very short Packers gain. So being in the stadium for game night is not enough for you here, Clark. You were also here last night as arts and sports kind of came together inside Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah, it sure did. We had the grand unveiling of our art program last night. We spent the last 18 months picking the initial pieces that are part of our art program. We now have 11 of them up on the club level of the building, and it was just a great night.
Nice job by the Chiefs pass rush affecting Vince Young there and forcing the inaccuracy on that second down pass.
Well, and yesterday was the kickoff luncheon where a lot of the community had the opportunity to meet John Dorsey and hear from Andy Reid and see some of the players up close and personal when they're not in their uniforms and their helmet. Just talk a little bit about the outlook on the season and what you've seen so far this preseason.
Sure. Well, first of all, yesterday's event was fantastic. I've been to a few kickoff luncheons, and it was really one of the best. You could just see the great chemistry between Andy and John on stage. We had a bunch of our leaders from the team up on stage talking about the season. And the thing that's consistent with everybody is so optimistic and so positive about the upcoming season.
Well, and I think there's reason to be optimistic and positive. When you see all the changes that have happened this offseason, you see the progress that's going on through the offseason and now carried over into training camp and the preseason. And you can just see the excitement. You can hear the excitement, feel the excitement around town and here in the stadium as well.
No, that's exactly right. And I think last week's game in Pittsburgh was a great example of the direction the team's headed. The starters did a great job coming back at the end of the first half, getting that touchdown, the 2-minute drill. And then the reserves came in at the end of the game. Chase Daniel led the second team on a drive to win the game in overtime. Really a great victory for the team and a great way to lead into the season.
Frank Hammond Jr., undrafted free agent receiver out of Florida with a return of 20 yards. Chief CEO and Chairman Clark Hunt, thanks for the time, as always.
Absolutely. Glad to be on with you guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
We're back right after this. Chase Daniel going to join Alex Smith on the sideline with the hats, and they will watch Tyler Bragg. There's what Chase did. He started tonight. His first pass was intercepted. Had some decent moments in between, Trent, but a lot of some protection issues, and it seemed like some indecision for Chase as well.
Well, and he's going to be frustrated. Just knowing Chase the little bit that I do, getting to know him, since he's been on the team and understanding what he wants to bring to the table as a quarterback, his understanding of game management, and he's going to be frustrated when he sees, especially those two red zone plays, having an opportunity to be in that close to the end zone. I know that he didn't look real pleased with what went on. You could tell by his facial expression. So I'm sure he's going to be running through those plays all night. But you know what about quarterback? You know it, Paul. You got to be one snap and clear and move on to the next one. And as soon as this game ends, it's going to be about studying for Jacksonville, and getting ready for that opener.
We saw the pass right there, Trent, completed to number 13, A.J. Jenkins. The big trade happened early last week, swapping of first-round picks with San Francisco, John Baldwin for A.J. Jenkins. He's only been here a little more than a week. Yeah, that's a nice hole up the right side. Cyrus Gray, second-year player, the draft pick last year out of Texas A&M. That is easily a Kansas City first down, as Cyrus Gray up the right side picks up 14 yards. So A.J. Jenkins been here a little over a week, a first-round pick last year. How much a part of the offense right away, a trusted part of the offense, can you expect him to be since he's not even been here 2 weeks?
Well, I think that's important to remember is how quickly, he's had to turn around and go from one system in San Francisco to this system. And last week against Pittsburgh, we talked with Andy Reid about what type of packages. He's like, you know what, we got a few plays in for him, and most of the time it's just going to be a go route. A 9-route or a go route is the same in every offense. So now that he's had another few days under his belt, I'm sure that package has increased in terms of the number of plays he's going to be asked to do. And when you talk about the starters not playing tonight, AJ's going to have an opportunity to have some of that carryover onto the field, and hopefully it can pay off and build him towards not only being a part of a limited number of plays in Jacksonville, but as the season progresses, be more and more involved in the game plan. Because if you've got the type of speed that AJ brings to the table, you want to have him on the field to stretch defenses.
Do you feel like they're expecting him to be a starter in 10 days at Jacksonville that early?
I don't think so. I think the expectation is for Donnie Avery to be the starter. Donnie's been here the whole offseason. He's a guy that started in this league and been productive in this league. AJ's a guy that they're hoping can develop into that third and fourth wide receiver, or if an injury happens, a guy that can get in there to stretch the field. And AJ's a guy that hopefully develops throughout the season.
Chiefs on the move. Inside of 10 minutes left till halftime. We're still tied at 3. We invite your pictures via Twitter all night. You can send it #ChiefsKingdom, and we'll check them out in the truck. We'll share all the good ones, Trent. So please send all those pictures via Twitter, like that one, with the heavy Chiefs theme. A lot of red and gold, a lot of smiles, a lot of activity here inside Arrowhead Stadium. We would like to see all your pics. You can send them right there. #ChiefsKingdom. Chiefs on the move now, 9:52 left in the second quarter. Tyler Bray in at quarterback after Chase Daniel has played up until this drive. A lot of velocity on that one to A.J. Jenkins, and he couldn't hang on. Chiefs quarterback landscape looks a lot different right now than it did a week ago or 5 nights ago when it went Alex Smith to Chase Daniel to Tyler Bray to Ricky Stanzi. But Ricky Stanzi got cut earlier this week.
Well, and Chase Daniel had a chance to talk with him, and he said he called Ricky immediately after it happened. That's, he reached out to Ricky because he knows, that's a tough process to go through. You've spent several months with a guy. You want to wish him the best. You hope he gets an opportunity. I know that he was picked up a day later off of waivers by Jacksonville, and that's an interesting story we can talk about as this game progresses. When the team you're playing in week 1 decides to go out and get the quarterback that's been with you the entire offseason. But really what I talked to Chase about was his conversations that he had with Ricky, but then also the follow-up conversations that he had with Tyler Bray. And Tyler being a young guy and an undrafted free agent, Chase Daniel's an undrafted free agent, so there was a lot of similarities. And it was really, from what Chase was saying, it was an eye-opener to Tyler that this really is a business. As much as you want to talk about it is a business, all of a sudden, one day a guy's there in your meeting room that you've been with all along, and the next day he's gone, and that's business. You've got to understand you have to show up every day to compete. And it's a big challenge to make an NFL roster, especially as an undrafted free agent. And that's really the conversations that Chase had with Tyler, and understand that, hey, it doesn't just end here with making a roster. It's what you do from this point forward as you grow as a player.
Chiefs 0 for 5 now on third downs as Tyler Bray looked like he had time there for an instant, but then flushed out to the right and just had to get rid of it.
We can see A.J. Jenkins is on the backside. You see him on the left, and as the play developed, Tyler Bray was scrambling to his right, so his eyes never really came back to that side of the field. Good coverage sack by the Packers, and Tyler Bray attempting to get the ball thrown away.
Chris Banjo down on the field for the Packers. We'll take a break just inside of 9 minutes till halftime. The Chiefs Art Program, announced by the Hunt family in 2012, makes its debut this preseason as the first 10 pieces of artwork were installed this summer, highlighting regional artwork and uniting sports and the arts. Fans can now enjoy these one-of-a-kind, unique pieces on display inside the stadium. A little bit ago in the broadcast, Chief CEO and Chairman Clark Hunt was here and talked about what a great experience it was with the art program here last night inside Arrowhead Stadium. Field goal attempt of 48 yards now for Ryan Suckup, who is 7 for 7 in the preseason. And he continues to be perfect. That one literally right down the middle. And for the first time tonight, Kansas City on top. And it's fitting. It's thanks to the special teams, which has been the real star through games 1, 2, 3, and now 4. And there is the special teams coordinator, Dave Tobe. Kind of feel like he's the fourth member of our broadcast team. Preseason here.
We ran into him in the tunnel a couple of games ago, and we said, Coach, you know, you guys keep doing a good job. You're getting a lot of FaceTime on there. And he kind of looked at us like we were crazy. He's done a heck of a job. You know, you talk about having to transition and implement some new schemes. You know, he had a lot of success in Chicago with Devin Hester, and it hasn't slowed down coming over here and getting these young guys to make some lanes. And obviously you got to have some talent as a returner, but you know, it doesn't hurt any having a kicker like Ryan Suckup and a punter like Dustin Colquitt. But Dave Tobe's done a tremendous job getting this team to the point where they are special teams wise.
And that's really what a lot of these backups and third teamers, that's how they stick on the roster, is being trusted on the special teams.
Well, and that's where you have to show up. You know, when you start trying to put together your 53, of course you're going to pick out your best athletes, but then ultimately there's cap casualties. You start talking about dollars and cents, and that's just a part of the National Football League now, and that'll all come together here these next couple days.
Did you know, Trent, that we now have a Rock the Mic winner this summer?
How about that?
It's official. Rachel Sanchi has more from the sideline.
Yeah, thanks guys. For the second year in a row now, we've had Rock the Mic, which is where one lucky fan gets to be on the sidelines in the final preseason game. Last year it was Rachel Kilmer, a college student who now is a sports reporter at KNOP TV in Denver. This year, happy to introduce Lori Gentry. Lori, how did you find out about the contest and how did you enter?
Well, Rachel, actually my husband is a follower of yours on Twitter, and so he saw one of your tweets that came out about Rock the Mic and said, hey, I think this might be something you'd want to do. And so I made an audition tape, sent it in, and next thing I knew I was standing here with you.
Now, you've seen Arrowhead behind the scenes, you've been on the sidelines, you're in a production meeting. What has it been like for you so far?
It has been a whirlwind. We've been here since 4 o'clock, and we've just been going ever since. It's amazing how many parts go behind the scene for this kind of a production, and I'm just so honored to be a part of it tonight.
Well, you'll be seeing more of Lori in the second half, so back to you guys.
All right, we're excited to have 2 reporters in the sideline, Trent.
How about that? She said she follows her on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Or her husband does, one of the two. That's how she found out about it. That's great.
Rachel's gaining followers. Nobody's surprised there. First down and 10, Packers. Jonathan Franklin, the rookie tailback, all-time leading rusher at UCLA. And he has it around the right side. Interesting what the Packers did there in the draft, Trent. They're so much led by Aaron Rodgers in the passing game, but they were the first team to take a running back. They went Eddie Lacy in round 2. For the first time in 50 years, we didn't have a back picked in the first round, and then they came right back in the 4th to get Jonathan Franklin, telling many people, or leading many people to believe, maybe the Pack will run it a little bit more this season.
Well, I think that's what they try and get everybody to believe.
That's what they want us to think.
That's why they want everybody. Well, you got number 12 over there,
right?
And the way he throws the football and the way he manages the game and the receivers that he has around him, you know, it just continually improving that aspect of the game. But I think it is important for the Packers to have a run aspect in there. You want to take some of the heat because, as you mentioned, you know, Aaron Rodgers was the most sacked quarterback in the National Football League a year ago, and when you're throwing that many times, it's going to happen.
Ridge Wilson there, nice job once again. Doesn't get the sack, but he's the reason this play went the way of the Chiefs. Nice pressure, bringing down Vince Young and causing the incompletion. It'll be 3rd down and 9.
Well, and the Packers are showing a little bit of musical chairs here with their backup quarterback, trying to get B.J. Coleman and Vince Young both time to show what they can do, different situations, give them different series, give them multiple chances to try and establish who this backup's going to be.
Green Bay 1 out of 6 converting 3rd down situations into 1st downs, and now it's going to be 2 out of 7. Nice job by Vince Young, and an excellent job by Jeremy Ross, reading that ball in the air, coming back, and going up and getting it for the Green Bay 1st.
And that has to be the hardest thing for cornerbacks in the National Football League. It has become such a trend now, that back shoulder fade throw. And even though Vince Young puts some air underneath that ball. A lot of teams around the league, and Aaron Rodgers in particular, they throw that back shoulder fade more on a line, not necessarily a jump ball kind of throw that Vince Young did there, but Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, you talk about a lot of these elite quarterbacks in the National Football League, they throw that firm back shoulder throw if they see the defender in the hip pocket of the receiver.
Vince Young looking deep in that one, incomplete. And that was something, let's say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, was around that back shoulder fade right at the goal line. When you were playing, were quarterbacks doing that out in the middle of the field as much down?
It was just starting to become a trend. It
seems pretty recent.
It does. As you mentioned, it was more of a red zone thing. It was, when you're out in the field, you want to get in front of that corner. You want to get on top of him and extend the field, stretch the field, and try and make those long passes. And now, with the contact rule that corners have to go by, safeties have to go by, that's become more a part of the offensive game plan because of some of the restrictions that are put on the defenders.
Second down and 10 now for Vince Young. Alex Green off the right side. Chiefs defense there.
Well, and really, they've done a good job. You think about what the Chiefs have done this preseason, stopping the run. Really, the only thing that jumps to mind is that Frank Gore, the initial run that Frank Gore had, the San Francisco game where he picked up a big chunk. But for the most part, this defense, other than that one run, they've done a nice job of controlling the running game, controlling the line of scrimmage, and that's going to be an important part of this team moving forward this season.
Third down and 8 now. Moments ago, Vince Young went to the right side, that back shoulder fade, to pick up a first down on 3rd and long. We'll see what he does here on 3rd and 8. Forced to step up in the pocket, throws off balance, and once again, no sack. But the Chiefs front getting pressure without bringing a blitz and forcing the incompletion. Zach Dials doing a good job there.
Well, and from a big picture standpoint, this is a cover 22 man. We talked about that earlier with Chase Daniels, where 22 man, nobody covers the quarterback. Well, here, they cover the quarterback. Instead of rushing 4 that you would typically do in that coverage, they spy a defender. They spy someone into coverage so that he can mirror Vince Young if he takes off and run. And that's where the pressure came from, is when Vince tried stepping up in the pocket.
Mason Crosby from 45 yards out, and our game of field goals continues. Crosby has 2, Ryan Suckup has 2, and we are all tied at 6. Let's take a look at the Hy-V drive of this half. Hy-V, a helpful smile in every aisle. Frank Zombo, 3 years as a Packer, 1 training camp as a Chief. The big interception, Niall Davis, the swing out of the backfield, nice gain there. All setting up Ryan Suckup for one of his 2 field goals. And we are all tied at 6. 2 Mason Crosby field goals, 2 Ryan Suckup field goals, and there's Frank Zombo, his 1 interception. Packers also have an INT tonight. That came on the very first play of the game. Chase Daniel picked right there by Tremont Williams early in the first quarter. Frankie Hammond Jr., undrafted free agent out of Florida, back deep to receive. And the Chiefs have been bringing him back from 8-9 yards deep, but you can't do it. Can't do it from 12 yards deep.
You want to know my Hy-V drive of the preseason so far?
I do.
When you go through the 4 preseason games, I'm sitting here trying to reflect on our Hy-V drives of the half, and I think I like that 109-yard kickoff return that Niall Davis had. As a quarterback, you're like, okay, these are the plays, guys. Let's focus in. Let's get ready to go. Oh, he's going 109.
We'll take it.
We'll take that one.
Right.
Okay, here, buckle. Okay, here we go. That's the drive. That's my drive of the preseason right there. I like that one.
Cyrus Gray, the tailback, behind Tyler Bray, and this is Tyler's 2nd series. The starter's not playing tonight, so Alex Smith didn't play. It's been all Chase Daniel and Tyler Bray. We had a great drive to start the preseason in New Orleans, 14 plays, Jamal Charles touchdown. Thinking back to last week in Pittsburgh, Alex Smith, 2 scoring drives late, the field goal and then the touchdown toss to Junior Hemingway, and Chase Daniel in overtime. About 6 hours after the game started, Trent, you remember, finding Rico Richardson.
You know what we have to remember? They had a drive to go down and get a field goal there with 2 minutes to go and to get it to overtime. So they had 2 great drives, Chase Daniel in that backup unit at the end of not only the end of the game, but of course in overtime, as you mentioned, to get the win.
Tyler Bray, that's an athletic pass and a nice catch by Junior Hemingway. Bray to Hemingway for a gain of 22. Rachel Sanchi on the sideline with a name you just might recognize.
So Eric, what's it like being back at Arrowhead tonight?
Man, it's always a special feeling. every time we get back in, you hear the crowd right now, but every time we get back in here, so much love, so much energy. Last preseason of the game of the preseason, so I'm excited to get it cranking up when we come back for home games.
Tell me a little bit about the defense. What is different about it this year?
The biggest thing is everybody's just starting to build off of what we started since we got here, you know, and you know, we got a lot of experience back there. Despite that we're young, we still have a lot of experience. And I think guys are just gelling together, you know, and Coach Sutton, he's very aggressive, I would say, as far as with his play calling, and I think we respond to that very well. So I'm excited to see what happens this year.
So last year, 86 tackles, an interception. What are some of your goals this year?
Man, just get to the playoffs and take it from there. That's the biggest thing, and you know, I want to do anything that'll help my team get there. So I'm definitely working every day, you know, every week, trying to get better, and I just want to see us do good. So I'm gonna keep working towards that.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, no problem.
What sort of new ways do you think Bob Sutton going to use Eric Berry here?
Well, it was fun to talk to Eric a couple weeks back when he talks about getting in the paint. He gets really excited. All of a sudden, he sits up in his chair a little bit more, and you know, I always used to use the term getting in the box down there at linebacker depth. He calls it getting in the paint, and he's excited about the different ways they're going to utilize him, whether it be in coverage, whether it be in blitz packages, whether it be in combo routes with the other corners, with the other safeties. We talked earlier in the game about the athleticism that's at the safety position. You know, Eric Berry, Kendrick Lewis, you know, Hussein Abdullah stepped up, Quentin Dimps, Bradley McDougall's trying to make the team as a rookie out of Kansas. So you've got a lot of guys. Tyson Hartman a week ago, you know, had the block field goal and came up with a big sack. So you've got a lot of safeties that are really good athletes, and you know, they're going to find ways to utilize Eric Berry's talents and put him in position to have success.
Tyler Bray stepping up and overshooting. And just in this very small sample size, Trent, I think we're getting a snapshot of Tyler Bray. All you got to do is watch him throw one pass to see the velocity and the talent. A lot of arm talent, as we say now during draft season. The footwork probably not where it's going to be a couple of years from now. The accuracy not where he wants. So you've got all kinds of upside and also a lot of work to do.
You know, and that's the great thing about it, is because he's in a position behind an Alex Smith, behind a Chase Daniel, two guys that are pros and understand this game, he has the time to work on those things. He's a little bit long in his legs, a little bit long in his stride. He's got to compact that down and get it shorter. He's got to be a little bit more decisive with some of his decisions. It doesn't always have to be a fastball. He's going to have to learn some of that touch, and that's all part of the growing process. And I think as he develops as a quarterback and has time to work on those things, it's only going to get better.
Penalty marker down, the screen pass to Sean Drone, and we'll take a listen here. An explanation for the flag, though.
Holding, 52, offense. 10-yard penalty, still second down.
Kansas City 3 penalties now for 20 yards. Moments ago in the huddle, we had the rookie third-round pick out of Cincinnati, the tight end Travis Kelce. He came kind of limping, hobbling off, and there he is on the sideline. And he missed some time, missed the game last week against Pittsburgh. And here he is a couple of plays ago, right after a play. Finds a way to get off the field, and as you just saw, he's now laying down on the sideline, getting looked at. Keep you updated on Travis Kelce as information comes in. This is second down 20. Tyler Bray throwing a fastball, and that's just a dart to Junior Hemingway. And that's the positive of what we were just talking about with Tyler Bray. That's I mean, it's not like it's an extremely difficult throw, but you see the velocity. That ball got there in a hurry.
Yeah, there are times in the National Football League where coverage is going to be tight. It's not all timing routes and placing it to a spot and letting your receiver run to it. Sometimes you've got to be able to squeeze it in there, and that's why everybody is so high on Tyler Bray and his arm strength, because when you need to make those throws, he has the ability to strike it in there.
Third down and 8. Bray stands in, and there's the inaccuracy, missing Junior Hemingway. Chaz Powell there with the coverage.
Well, and in that instance, it's still good to have velocity on the ball, because there's
so fast he couldn't catch it.
There's a reason why a guy's on defense. He doesn't necessarily have the best hands, so he's not quite used to that velocity. So luckily for Tyler, he got away with one here with the throw that he made, and just the anticipation, thinking the receiver's going to be more on the inside. He fired that in there, and you know, that was a good series. It put him in a few different situations. He had to roll out. He had to step up in the pocket. He had to make some things happen with his feet. He had to have some accuracy to Cyrus Gray on a throw out of the backfield to the running back. So good series for him. Even though it doesn't produce, it gets out across midfield and puts together some plays.
Tyler Bray now 5 out of 9 for 56 yards. You mentioned that one too fast. That one too fast to be caught in the interception. Reminds me of a guy I used to work with, Sterling Sharp. We all know very well.
Yes.
So, Paul, don't ever forget, defensive backs are just wide receivers who can't catch. That's all they are.
Well, you just mentioned Tyler Bray's 5 of 9, and you know he's got one dented pair of safety shoulder pads after putting the crosshairs right on that one.
And the man right there in the middle next to Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, as we talk about some of the advantages Tyler Bray has earned to have a spot here on this team. You talked about Chase Daniel and Alex Smith. Well, Doug Peterson, an NFL veteran, played for over a decade. So you've also got a guy, while you sit next to those two very smart veteran players, a pretty young coach there who was playing himself not long ago.
Well, and Doug has been through all the different phases. You know, he was a starter in the National Football League for Andy Reid in Philadelphia. He was a backup. He was a third-string guy. So he understands what these guys are going through and what they're trying to learn and what they're trying to develop.
Smith, Bray, Daniel, and Peterson having a conversation there on the sideline. We have time for a break. It's 6-6 at the 2-minute warning. Coming up on the 65 Toss Power Trap halftime program, the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holtis, going to sit down with special teams coordinator Dave Tobe, that man right there. Plus a special sneak peek into the final special of the 2013 preseason Chiefs Full Contact. That's all coming up at halftime, which is moments away as we are now at the 2-minute warning. Packers with 2 timeouts left and the Chiefs with 1. Jonathan Franklin, the tailback. B.J. Coleman, the quarterback. Coleman pressured, and we've seen this theme a lot tonight. The Chiefs getting to the Green Bay quarterback and causing the inaccuracy.
Nice job by Darren Drakeford coming right up the middle, avoiding the block of the running back, just dancing around it. We've talked about some of the issues the Chiefs running backs have had earlier in the preseason with protection, and right here, Drakeford does a nice job of avoiding the block, putting the pressure on Coleman and forcing an errant throw.
Drakeford had the nice play earlier in the first quarter, chasing down Vince Young. And it looked like he had enough room to get a first down, and he prevented it. Coleman coverage by Tyson Hartman. And the Chiefs pass defense doing a nice job there with the 2 plays after the 2-minute warning.
We mentioned early in the game about Hussein Abdullah, what he did last week and this week covering from the slot. This time Hartman, they're waiting for the receiver at that 10-yard cushion, not backing up, understanding where the first down chains are, getting leverage on the receiver, and Coleman is forced to leave that too far and outside. Nice stop by Hartman with his coverage.
1:52 left. Again, the Chiefs 1 timeout remaining. Frankie Hammond Jr. Here he comes from the 40-yard line. Almost to the midfield stripe between the 49 and the 50. And what a great situation for Tyler Bray to come in and do something here. Maybe run a little 2-minute offense. Got a timeout left.
Great opportunity. 1:40 to go, as you mentioned, Paul. 1 timeout to go. Score tied at 6. You got a kicker like Ryan Suckup. These are things that you try and duplicate in practice,
right?
And you may, go through the rituals of, hey, 2-minute drill. But there's this whole certain level of nervousness, a certain level of pressure when all of a sudden it's in a game situation. So as much as you want to duplicate it, this is invaluable to the growth of Tyler Bray as a quarterback and the rest of the guys on the field as well.
Bray held on to that one too long, and the ball comes out. Drone, nice job of picking it up. And I believe we're going to have a 15-yarder against Green Bay. A late hit, leading with the helmet there as Sean Drone was down on the field with the ball.
Well, that's just one of the plays where the defender has to realize that the recover is already down, and
after the
he just
play
goes
is
in and
over,
takes a shot at it.
Personal foul, 97 defense, 15 yards from the end of the play.
So I was going to say, as the Packers staff, you've got to be upset with that, because here now all of a sudden you've got the Chiefs in a 2nd and 23, 24. Now all of a sudden you've given them new life with the first down.
See, the penalty right there on Johnny Jolly, number 97, coming in late. You talk about the opportunity for Tyler Bray. You think about his season ending in Tennessee late last year. Next preseason coming up a year from right now. In a year-and-a-half situation, this is his only time probably to run a 2-minute drill in a game situation. That's a good pass there to Junior Hemingway.
Yeah, something is going to have to go drastically wrong for Tyler Bray to get another opportunity in this until next year. And that's not a negative comment. That's just you're hoping Alex Smith stays healthy, and if Chase has to play, that Chase stays healthy. But this is invaluable for Tyler because this will be his last real situation at this until next preseason.
2 straight completions in that one, going to Kevin Brock, that side end, for a Kansas City first down. And how his life looks different here in Kansas City after Tony Mowiaki fractured his shoulder. It's not something you want to see of a friend inside your own meeting room, but you also, as a professional, realize this opportunity this week feels a whole lot different than it did last week.
Well, and you mentioned last game about the number of stops that Kevin Brock has made, the number of different rosters he's been on, and the different opportunities he's had. Here's someone that's had an opportunity the last 2 weeks. He got reps with the first-string offense the last 2 weeks because of injuries, because of an injury to Travis Kelce, because now ultimately the shoulder injury to Tony Mowiaki. So he's making the most of that, and Kevin Brock is in a real position to make this 53-man roster.
Travis Kelce has a knee injury. He will not return. Number 46 is Kevin Brock, and Trent just mentioned the traveling he's done in the National Football League. He spent last year with Buffalo. He had 2 catches for 27 yards. 2011 with Buffalo. He's been with 7 teams since going undrafted in 2009. The Panthers, Jets, Steelers, Cowboys, Bills, Bears, Raiders, and now the Chiefs. And this is a guy who's used to the uphill battle. Joined Rutgers as a walk-on, became a quality player there. So he's been living this kind of life, battling to be a part of a team since he went to Rutgers as a walk-on.
Well, and that's why you're happy to see him have some success, getting an opportunity, having some success. Because a guy that's worked as hard as he had, and he's faced a lot of uphill battles when he's released that many times. A lot of guys give up, and this is someone that's continued to work hard and given himself an opportunity. This throw from Tyler is a little behind Hemingway. Not necessarily when he gets his head around, the ball's already in the air, and as much smoke as Tyler puts on the ball, that's hard for Hemingway to make that adjustment.
3rd down and 2, no touchdowns yet in this game. 4 field goals, 2 for Ryan Suckup of the Chiefs, and a pair for Mason Crosby of Green Bay. No timeouts remaining for KC. Tyler's got room to keep it for a first down. And that's what he does, crossing the 15-yard line, and he's going to have to get up there and spike the ball.
Oh, I had to chuckle there a little bit. He's a big old long stride runner, and he decided he had a chance to slide there or at least get more vertical up the field and get down, and then you can that much quicker to spiking the ball. Instead, he wanted
to cut it back.
He gave a little inside dip and tried to bounce it. I'm sorry to laugh. It's just he's got to understand the defenders in this league are incredibly fast.
First down.
All right, 10 seconds left. Going to move it a little closer to the goal line after that penalty. And again, no timeouts left. Tyler went undrafted after coming out after his junior year at Tennessee. He made 24 starts for the Volunteers. Team went 13 and 11 in that time. 69 touchdowns, only 28 interceptions. Pretty good TD to INT ratio. But 11 quarterbacks got drafted. He didn't. And it appears after the team released Ricky Stanzi that he's found a spot here with the Kansas City Chiefs. Plenty of time there. Touchdown, Tyler Bray to Junior Hemingway.
First off, nice job by the offensive line giving Tyler Bray protection. They have 7 guys in the box, do the Packers, and what they're really trying to do is they're trying to run a combination coverage with the corner sitting outside, safety sitting inside. What Hemingway does is he does a double move. He goes out like he's going to do a slant to the corner, and then he flattens it off down along the goal line. Nice job. And really, that was a double route. If you look on the other side of the field, A.J. Jenkins was doing the same thing. It was just a matter of Tyler Bray picking the matchup, and he obviously picked the right matchup there because Hemingway got himself open.
Junior Hemingway kind of likes this time of the game, Trent. The last week at Pittsburgh, very end of the first half, called in the touchdown from Alex Smith. Now with 5 seconds left until halftime. Touchdown reception from Tyler Bray. Tyler Bray's first touchdown pass as a Chief, if we can call the a preseason touchdown pass, his first official TD toss.
That's right. They all count. They all count. Believe me, when you're trying to make a roster,
it counts.
They all count. So Hemingway here with another touchdown in the preseason, and we talk about those final roster spots. You know, Andy Reid likes to keep 6 wide receivers, but does he keep only 5 because he has to keep more tight ends? Well, now all of a sudden, you know, with Devin Wiley being injured, having a hamstring injury, and these other guys, Bellamy, Hammond Jr., you know, Hemingway, Rico Richardson's going to get some time in the second half. You've got these guys. It's going to make some tough decisions for John Dorsey and Andy Reid trying to get down to the 53-man roster. But it's nice to see Hemingway, a 7th-round pick out of Michigan, you know, a couple of years ago, that he's coming through here the last 2 games with some plays at the end of the first half, both times.
7th-round pick last year, the 2012 draft. He was 32nd out of 33 wide receivers selected last year. Played in 1 game, week 17 last year. Didn't accumulate any stats. Big play receiver at Michigan. His junior and senior seasons averaging 19 yards per catch on 66 receptions. Alex Green back deep to receive for Green Bay. He'll take a knee, and I would imagine the Packer quarterback, whether it's Vince Young or B.J. Coleman, will do the same here. Junior Hemingway jogging off the field. Maybe a little winded, but feeling good.
Hey, 6 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown. That's a heck of a first half for anybody.
This after the touchdown reception last week in Pittsburgh as well. So whether it's 5 or 6 receivers, you feel pretty good about him being here?
Who, Junior Hemingway?
Yeah.
I think he's established himself the last 2 weeks. I think what's going to be the biggest determination of that is his special teams play. That's what those 5th and 6th receivers have to be able to do, and without being that directly involved with the special teams films and breakdowns of what he's doing from a return standpoint or a coverage standpoint, that will ultimately determine whether or not he makes the final 53. But I think if you're talking strictly from a receiver standpoint, he's done more than enough to establish himself in that phase.
And that is the end of the first half here at Arrowhead with the score: the Chiefs 13 and the Packers 6. We're right back with the 65 Toss Power Chap Productions halftime, and you're watching Chiefs preseason football.
Determination, a fixed purpose, the power and will to persist, resolve, to have the drive, to have the grit, to go the distance, to be hell-bent on reaching a goal and getting it done, no matter what.
Welcome back to Arrowhead Stadium. The Chiefs coming back out of the field. Halftime almost done. It's 13-6. The Chiefs on top. Welcome up here to the broadcast booth alongside Trent Green. I'm Paul Burmeister. We also have Rachel Sanchi on the sideline. No starters tonight. That means no Alex Smith, no Derek Johnson out there. But we did have some action. What did you see in the first 2 quarters?
Well, I have to be impressed with Tyler Bray. He had an opportunity to play as much as he's played the entire preseason, and it looks like he's going to play most of this, if not the entire second half. So good opportunity for him, moving the ball, getting it there at the end of the first half, going down and getting that touchdown.
Junior Hemingway now. Last week he had the touchdown at the end of the half against Pittsburgh, and he does it once again tonight.
Well, when you have those opportunities, you have to step up. With Devin Wiley going down with a hamstring injury early in the first half, it's going to be important for these other guys. You talked about last week, Hemingway getting a touchdown before the half, and now he gets another one. So just trying to establish your spot in that final 53.
Junior Hemingway, 6 grabs tonight, and there is your summary. Quarterbacks so far tonight we've seen for Green Bay, Vince Young and also B.J. Coleman, and for the Kansas City Chiefs, Chase Daniels started, and you just saw Tyler Bray. That's the game summary brought to you by Farmland Foods. Farmland, passion for pork since 1959. Ryan Suckup enjoying a fine preseason. 8 for 8, I believe, field goals.
He's done a heck of a job, and really that Thomas Gafford as the snapper, Colquitt as the holder, and Suckup as the kicker. The 3 of them have just been in complete sync throughout this entire preseason. And once again, we talk about Dave Tobe over and over about the return game, but with Colquitt and Suckup as your 2 kickers, and the coverage units, it's been good so far. And looking to be a strong point for the Chiefs this season.
The ball sails out of the end zone, and let's say hello for the first time in the second half to Rachel Sanchi on the sidelines.
Thanks, guys. I just talked with Coach Reed, and as I said before, he's pretty short and sweet. He said he's seen good things, he's seen bad things. He said Chase and Tyler, they're doing all right. He did say he liked having the MO of scoring touchdowns right before the half, and he said they're focused on finishing out this second half, then it's on to the regular season in Jacksonville.
All right, Rachel, thank you. We see there on the sideline Andy Reid next to Chase Daniel. Chase played quite a bit in the first half. I'm going to watch the second half. And the spot where Clark Hunt was in the first half, we now welcome Kansas City General Manager John Dorsey. And what's it like to be doing your job here with Kansas City, looking across the field and seeing the team that you played for 5 or 6 years and also spent the last 13 years in their front office?
Well, you know, it's different. You know, you see old friends, you have lifelong friends here, but it gives me, from a personnel perspective, it gives me a chance to evaluate the fourth preseason, not only their players, but our players as well.
Right. Well, you speak about the evaluation process and what you're going to do here in this fourth preseason game compared to the other games. You like to get down on the field and do some up-close evaluation.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that I'd like to look at, and the only way you can see that is down there on the field. So once I leave here, I'd like to go down on the field to complete the second half and just kind of see, because you can feel the game a little bit differently down on the field.
You mentioned that you're, of course, evaluating your own roster and figuring out how you're going to get from 75 to 53, but you're also watching the team across the way. How do general managers walk that fine line between having the intimate knowledge of what the players on your side are all about and also knowing what the other rosters are doing too?
It's called technology. It's called being able to have that film tomorrow, being able to evaluate them. You know, our staff does a great job of consistently and every day. We're evaluating every team in the National Football League, and we're trying to determine who the 53 players are on that roster. And then what we'd like to do is, okay, if there's a guy from 54 to 60 that can help us, you know, in that pool, let's go and see if he's better than what we have. And that's kind of what personnel guys actually do here.
Well, you establish yourself as a player through your special teams play, and that's going to be an important part of your evaluation, especially the guys we're seeing here in the second half. Not only what they can do offensively and defensively, but what they bring to the table from a special teams standpoint.
Well, there's three phases to the game: offense, defense, and special teams. And those backup players are going to have to play special teams, you know, for 16 weeks. And then, you know, if they have to fill in, they're going to have to fill in. But you'd like to have players who can play, actually line up and play, and also contribute as a special teams member. I think Dave does a great job getting these guys to play. He has this preseason.
Yeah, Dave Tobe, the special teams coordinator, have been a star as the special teams, especially the returns, have been very good. And Vince Young with the completion there.
Well, and we had to tease Dave a few weeks ago when we ran into him in the tunnel. We're saying, you're getting way more FaceTime than a special teams coordinator normally gets, so keep up the good work.
He's done an outstanding job. You know, we're very fortunate to have Dave Tobe here. I've considered him one of the top 3 special teams coaches in the National Football League, and it's a tribute to Andy, you know, to get him here when he got him here in January. And you can see by the preseason games what he does mean and what special teams do mean. They make big plays.
Earlier in the first half, one of the bigger plays in the first half by the defense, John, the interception from Frank Zombo and the good return there. See a penalty marker coming in late, but as you were in Green Bay, he was also there for 3 seasons, so he must have earned your trust somehow to make you want to bring him down this way. What exactly did you see from him in your time in Green Bay that made you think this guy could be a Chief?
I'm very familiar with Frank, and what he does, again, that's when you begin to actually go out in the free agency market and say, okay, here's a player in Frank. He's going to give us depth at that position. You have Justin, you have Tomba, but now you begin to get depth and acquire depth like that. And then as we go along this process, you'd like to continually get more depth with the likes of Frank Zombo, because not only does he play teams, he steps into the game, a regular season game, and you know he can make plays and he can contribute.
Well, what does he bring to the meeting room? Obviously, being around him for those 4 years in Green Bay, he obviously brings something, either a leadership or knowledge of the position that he can help carry over to the other guys in the room.
I think it's a combination of both. Frank is a true professional. He's very passionate about the game of football. He studies his craft, and that's really all you can ask for. And then when it's time for his time to be called, his number's called, you know, you have to be able to show you can play the game, and he's shown that tonight.
Penalty marker coming in. It's going to be pass interference. It appears to be on Moody.
Holding, number 32, defense. 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
And it is.
Well, there seems to be a blueprint. You just talked about Frank Zombo and what he brings as far as professionalism and being a pro. DeVito, defensive lineman, we've heard those same words used with him. Chase Daniel, from a quarterback standpoint, he's a real pro, somebody that knows how to prepare and can be a good presence in that meeting room with Alex Smith. Is that obviously that's an important part of if you're bringing in veteran guys?
No, it really is, and as you all know, I think the locker room to me is if you can get a nucleus of guys together in that locker room that are very close and they understand exactly what the other guy's doing. And that's what training camp's all about. These guys came in as teammates and they left as family. And that proves that somewhere during the course of a regular season, that tight-knit bond will eventually help this team in one way or another during a hard course here, during a hard part of the game.
Injuries sneak up and can dictate your week, can change your week. I'm wondering what your week has been like after the injury to Tony Moeaki. Fractured shoulder, he's going to be out for at least a major portion of the season. The tight end position was already pretty new with Anthony Fasano and your draft pick Kelsey out of Cincinnati. You also have Harris here, an interesting project from Milwaukee. So share with us some of your thought process about that position after Moeaki goes down.
Well, what you want to do is, you have your emergency boys and what you're doing is you're targeting various players on other teams that can step in and help us not only contribute on special teams, but be able to be, a playmaker at that position. So that's why you go and you evaluate the preseason, all the preseason games, to be able to stack your tight end to say all of a sudden if this guy's released, you say this guy can help us.
Right.
So let's get him.
You can help us after the break if you want to stay. How about that?
No, I'm going to go down on the field and watch football.
Okay, that's probably a better idea.
Okay.
John Dorsey, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Trent, see you.
We have been asking for you to share your pictures with us, hashtag Chiefs Kingdom, and they continue to come in. We like to see the young fans in the Chiefs jerseys. I took 2 Chiefs jerseys home to my sons last week. They both wore them to the first day of school in Los Angeles. How about that?
That's pretty impressive.
Huh?
And they were number 11. You got the QB number. That's good,
we
right?
did. The young one did it just because the older one did it. But the point is,
that tends to be the case, right?
Sent 2 kids to school there with representing Alex Smith and the Chiefs. So I should have sent a picture of that in. Keep those pictures coming. Hashtag Chiefs Kingdom. Cyrus Gray off the right side. That's the Kansas City first down. Chaz Powell with the tackle. But Kansas City goes for a first down and a gain of 13.
And we've continually talked all night long from the opening all the way through now about the roster spots. Here Cyrus Gray is getting an opportunity to play. Niall Davis has established himself as the backup behind Jamal Charles. Who's going to be that third running back? Sean Drone, Cyrus Gray? Right now it looks like they're only going to keep 3 running backs. Because of injuries, it could end up being 4, but you've got 2 guys fighting for this last running back spot.
Cyrus Gray dropped in the backfield there by Jordan Miller. And that's a loss of 4. Scoring summary for the Chiefs here in that first half. Couple of field goals from Ryan Suckup, and then late, the Chiefs moving there in that 2-minute offense just like a week ago in Pittsburgh. That one was led by Alex Smith with a touchdown to Junior Hemingway. Tonight to end the first half, that man right there, Tyler Bray, with a touchdown toss to Hemingway to make it 13-6 KC. Bray off 3 steps. Josh Bellamy, gain of 12.
Nice job by Bellamy on his route. He goes up, he comes back to Tyler Bray. This is a quick little hitch route. Actually a little slant route. He comes inside and he stops. Sits right in between the zone, between the 2 linebackers, and Bray does a nice job of getting it on him, and then Bellamy giving a little shoulder dip to avoid that first contact and get upfield to make it 3rd and short.
Bellamy in his second camp with Kansas City joined the Chiefs as an undrafted free agent after the 2012 draft out of Louisville. This is 3rd down and 4. And that's Rico Richardson going up for it, but he can't come down with it. And the Packers do. Intercepted by Brandon Smith. Tremont Williams with an interception in the first quarter, and Smith has one now in the 3rd.
Well, you can see Doug Peterson right here talking to Tyler Bray. There's different ways to throw the football, and we'll talk about it when we come back after the break.
Packers come up with their 2nd pick of the night. 9:43 left, and the Chiefs lead by 7.
Squeeze, sink, hands, go. Blah, blah, blah.
Earlier this month, nearly 50 local youth coaches and administrators attended Heads Up Football player safety coach training at the University of Kansas Hospital Training Complex at Arrowhead. Heads Up Football is a program to educate coaches on how to diagnose and prevent concussions, as well as proper tackling techniques and equipment fitting.
False start, 17, offense, half a distance to the goal. Still first down.
What an important time for the league to be involved in such an initiative. It's such a popular conversation in youth football, high school football.
Well, the NFL does a great job with their youth program, USA Football, and if you go to usafootball.com, they do a nice job of, they have video techniques, they have coaching techniques, they have plans for coaches to use, and with these seminars going on around the country, it's nice that coaches can come and get some awareness on how to handle concussions in young players.
Jarrell Poe with the tackle there for the Chiefs defense. Again tonight, starters on both sides of the football sitting it out. Second, third teamers battling to prove their worth and that they do belong to be on that 53-man roster. Final cuts from 75 to 53 coming up on Sunday. Vince Young backed up inside his own 2-yard line, and Jonathan Franklin, the rookie out of UCLA, is his tailback. Chiefs front 7, is that a safety? And Franklin made it out across the goal line, just in between the goal line and the 1 before he was shoved back into the end zone. Ridge Wilson leading the charge there.
Well, it's interesting to see what the Chiefs have done on the first 2 snaps down here inside the 5. They go 8 guys in the box, going man-to-man on the outside with a safety deep in the middle. Whether or not they're giving Vince Young the freedom to check out of that, you have one-on-one on the outside and everybody stacked inside. The Chiefs do a nice job of closing off the initial point of attack and then rallying what many Chief fans were hoping would have been a safety.
Even in the preseason, we're getting a taste here why it's so tough to play at Arrowhead Stadium. It is loud. And Vince Young calling a timeout, going to have a quiet conversation on the sideline with Mike McCarthy. Right there, number 13, one of the many stories making up the preseason. The Packers deciding to sign Vince Young and make him their backup quarterback. We're back right after this, third down. Chiefs fans, here's your invite to show off your colors. You can get great Chiefs gear at the Chiefs Pro Shop at Arrowhead Stadium or shop anytime online at shop.kcchiefs.com. Third down and 12 coming up here, and third down been a tough situation for the Packer offense so far tonight as they are just 2 out of 9 converting third downs. And this will be their toughest one yet with the crowd on its feet and at its loudest inside that 1-yard line. Chiefs bring 5. Vince Young looking to the right side. And nice job of coverage there by Moody, and the pass falls incomplete. On comes the punt team.
Well, Vince Young tries getting away with one like he did earlier, where earlier there was a pass interference called, and then he also has done some back shoulder throws. Right here, he just puts it in a bad position for the receiver to have a chance to get the ball. That goes back to Tyler Bray's interception. On his interception, if you're going to throw that firm ball, you have to throw it to the back shoulder, or if you're going to throw it firm like that, you have to lead the receiver, and that's what happened to Tyler Bray. He underthrew it and left it inside. That's why the interception happened for Tyler, and exactly what happened there for Vince Young is Moody wasn't able to get his head around to get the interception, and now the Packers have to waste another timeout.
2 timeouts in 1 drive where you didn't get a first down, Trent. Is that a good series?
That is not a very productive series, especially with 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. And back-to-back timeouts with 1 play in between. So,
thought it was interesting, and there is Andy Reid. And there's a lot of ways to describe Andy Reid and what's been good about him, or what was good about him in Philadelphia. My favorite one is the consistency with which they won there after that first season. His first season in 1999, I believe you might have been in the NFC East at that point, or just leaving.
99, yes, that's right. The following year, yep.
They went 5-11 that year. The next 13 seasons, they only had 2 losing seasons. It's amazing in this today's
tough
age.
To do, exactly.
Frankie Hammond Jr. backed up, penalty marker down already. And Hammond Jr. has a crease. There's another penalty marker down. So we had one even before Hammond caught the football, and then another one as he was weaving his way through the middle of the field. Tackle eventually made by Nate Palmer.
When you talk about Andy Reid and what he's brought, you know, a lot of players on the Chiefs roster have talked to us throughout the preseason about the tempo of practice. The tempo of practice in OTAs and minicamp, the tempo of practice during the preseason training camps. The number of snaps that Andy Reid has this team get, you know, now there's no more two-a-days. You have the one practice a day, but the number of snaps they're getting in that one practice is what's really helped out this team. You know, you talk to Alex Smith, talk to Chase Daniel, talk to, you know, the receivers, the linemen. I mean, we've talked to a number of different people throughout this preseason, and they say how valuable the tempo at practice is. There is coaching going on, but most of the coaching goes on in the classroom when they're watching the film, because you're trying to get so many snaps in, so many guys get reps. It has been a great turnover for the Chiefs, and a great learning process for the young players to get that many reps.
We have fouls on both teams. We have unsportsmanlike conduct on 83 on the kicking. We have holding on number 36 of the return team. Those penalties are all set, and we will re-kick. 4th down.
We'll re-kick after all that.
I was going to say, that's a whole lot of talking just to say we're going to re-kick it. But
Dave Tobe, special teams coordinator, gets to watch one more time of his punt return team, Frankie Hammond Jr., trying to stick as probably a realistic goal as the last wide receiver, and also a trusted member of the special teams unit.
Well, Frankie showed good burst there. You saw he made that catch over on the sideline and made a couple guys miss, but then when he decided to take it up in there for the return, he showed a good burst of speed, and you can see why Dave Tobe has trusted him to be the return man.
Hammond Jr. from his own 42, thought about cutting it all the way back. He gets back to the 45-yard line. Alex Smith did not play tonight. Watching from the sidelines, watching his teammates try and make the team, try and win the game. Also thinking about 10 days from right now, the season opener at Jacksonville. But as you were talking about Andy Reid and the pace of his practices and how much they were installing in the film room, I think back to the meeting we had with Andy Reid in June at minicamp after a practice, and he was really pleasantly surprised at how much he said Alex could handle, how much he could take. Like every day he's like, okay, I'm gonna load him up this much more and see if he tells me to back off. And he kept taking it, doing well with it, and just been pleasantly surprised the whole way at how much he can handle mentally in terms of what they give him.
Well, and I think that's what Andy was so impressed with, was the mental part of Alex, his ability to retain and carry it over to the field, and what that allowed Andy to do as a coach is, if your quarterback can deal with it, then all of a sudden you can install more, because the other players have to come along. If your quarterback's moving at a fast pace, everybody else has to be able to maintain and keep up. And Alex was in a position, because he understood it so quickly, that he could get guys on the same page. You know, talking to Dwayne Bowe, talking to Jamal Charles, talking to the linemen about just the protections, the no huddle, the tempo, the quick, the 2-minute. The 2-minute tempo compared to the no huddle tempo compared to the traditional tempo, you know, that was something that Alex felt very comfortable with, and because he was going at such a fast pace and the reps were coming along with Andy's coaching, you know, it just made the team, it just made their installation that much quicker than what you would normally think.
Tyler Bray there, incomplete to Josh Bellamy. And of the many reasons I think to be excited about Alex Smith here in Kansas City, and even though this one screams game manager, and I don't like that term, but you look at the Chiefs last year, they were negative 24 in the turnover game, and that was the worst in the AFC. Alex Smith, his last 27 starts, including the playoff stretch, threw only 10 interceptions.
And that's what they're looking for out of him. Look at this preseason. He hasn't had any interceptions. There have been a few times where he's taken shots down the field, but most of it is accurate, under 20 yards. And everybody, you know, you say the game manager is a negative thing, and really that's what he's being asked to do, and he's okay with it. He doesn't feel the external pressure to, you know what, I've got to throw it deep every down because everybody wants me to throw deep every down. He's like, you know what, I've got a good defense, I've got a good running game, and I'm going to manage this team the way that I know how to play football. And if they need me to throw down the field, I'm more than capable of throwing it down the field. So he's at a good place right now, understanding what he wants to accomplish as a quarterback, and hopefully those kinds of things can rub off on Tyler Bray as he picks up a first down with his feet.
And as I mentioned, Alex Smith, I'm sure thinking about what's happening in 10 days, the opening game at Jacksonville, and Tyler Bray dropping back here on first down and firing deep to the right side. He's got a man wide open, Josh Bellamy. Did he get in? Touchdown, Chiefs. Tyler Bray's second touchdown tonight, 43 yards to Josh Bellamy.
Well, we've talked several times tonight. We've been doing it all night long about roster spots and guys getting opportunities to play. Hemingway did a nice job at the end of the first half here. Bellamy does a nice juke move, gets off the press, gets separation. Defensive back falls down. He secures the catch and is able to get into the front corner of the end zone before being touched.
Couple of second-year wide receivers, Trent, doing a nice job stating their case to be a member of the 53-man roster. Junior Hemingway, 6 catches in the first half and a touchdown. Josh Bellamy, a couple of catches here in the second half, and that 43-yard score.
Well, of course, you just got through talking about Frankie Hammond Jr. as he was returning the punt. You go back to last week with Rico Richardson getting that touchdown catch in overtime to win that game against Pittsburgh. So you have some good young talent at wide receiver making John Dorsey's job that much more difficult.
Tyler Bray now 11 out of 18 for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. One to Junior Hemingway, and that one from 43 yards to Josh Bellamy. Tyler Bray, not 1 but 2 touchdown tosses tonight. Right before the break, a 43-yarder to a wide open Josh Bellamy. Junior Hemingway also has a touchdown catch from Tyler tonight, and the Chiefs have a 2-touchdown lead. I'm sure Tyler breathing a sigh of relief as well after, he'd been battling with Ricky Stanzi, and Ricky gets released earlier this week, and now that number 3 job appears to be Tyler's, and he can just go out and play.
Well, it is a big relief, but as I said earlier, this is someone, he was in a meeting rooms and around Ricky this whole time, so you build up those relationships and friendships, and as Chase told me, it was a real eye-opener for Tyler because, all of a sudden, hey, this is the business of it, and Tyler realized that, because he's gotten this third quarterback position, it just means that he has to work that much harder to learn how to be a pro.
A little while ago, Rachel Sanchi introduced us to the Rock the Mic winner, Lori Gentry, and for her first sideline hit, let's send it down to the sidelines.
As you know, the beginning of the season is right around the corner, and a Kansas City fan favorite is Red Friday, which returns on Friday, September 13th. Redcoaters will be selling Red Friday magazines all across the Kansas City area to raise money for the Ronald McDonald House Charities. The day will be capped off with a pep rally at the Power and Light District at 6:30 p.m., featuring players, cheerleaders, and more. Make sure you wear your red and take part in all the festivities of Red Friday on September 13th. And now back up to Paul and Trent.
I say that's an A. That's a win.
that is an A.
Well done.
That was very good. Very impressive.
Good presence.
That's right.
Yeah. Good voice command.
She started off with, it's not like she had a teleprompter down there. She just rolled right. That's a lot of information. That's a heck of a job.
Number 20 for taunting, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 56 on the receiving team. Those penalties will offset. First down.
What goes together better than penalties and special teams play in the preseason, Trent?
Well, I just know you're enjoying the fact that we're still 6 minutes left in the third quarter here. I just know I can feel your energy about the pace of play. The number of penalties and the fact that the Packers called 2 timeouts.
Yes, yeah.
on bookends of one play. So I know where you're going with this. It's
game management. Trent.
Game management, exactly.
Vince Young still the quarterback here on first down and 10. And as we continue with the next quarter and a half, we're going to take a big picture look at what the Chiefs are up against here in the AFC West. And if you're talking AFC West, you've got to start at the top with the Denver Broncos. And this is a team that won 13 games a year ago, Trent. They were excellent. And the Chiefs don't play until later, November 17th and also December 1st. So the big news with Denver, the suspension of Von Miller, not going to matter a whole lot come those 2 games against Kansas City. But 13 wins a year ago, the addition of Wes Welker, team might be even a little bit better this year once they get Von Miller back.
Well, and I think that's important to remember that the Chiefs, you mentioned, the Chiefs don't play Denver until November and December. They play them twice in a 3-week span. I think the important thing to remember is part of the first moves that John Dorsey did as general manager was to go out and get Sean Smith from Miami as a free agent and get Dante Robinson. And that's a direct reflection of what's going on in Denver. They go out and get Wes Welker. They have Demaryius Thomas. They have Eric Decker. So you've got a three-headed monster in a receiving core going on there in Denver, and you've got to have the secondary to cover those guys one-on-one. So I think that was a direct move based on what the Broncos did in the offseason, and I commend John Dorsey for recognizing that and attacking that aspect of his defense.
3rd down and 7 now coming up here for Vince Young. Bring the pressure. Once again, had to throw it early, and it'll be the punt team coming on. We do have a penalty marker down after that pass fell incomplete. Tyson Hartman there with the coverage.
Well, and bring the pressure is exactly the next reason why you go get Sean Smith and Dante Robinson. Peyton Manning is not going to be a runaround guy. He wants to stand in the pocket. He's not a guy that generally gets sacked a lot because he gets rid of the ball
foul,
quickly.
Unnecessary roughness, 31, defense, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
So with the addition of the secondary guys, now all of a sudden Justin Houston and Tom Ali can come off the edge and get after Peyton Manning even more when that Denver game happens. And this is just poor decision on Tyson Hartman. He's a smart player. He's a guy that's made a lot of good decisions in the year and a half that he's been here. And that's just being overly aggressive when he doesn't have to be, giving Green Bay the first down and better field position.
Kansas City now 5 penalties for 40 yards. Back to the Denver conversation. I also think about when they face them, when the Chiefs face Denver in November and December. Eric Fisher going to need to be a veteran by then because you're going to have Von Miller coming off the edge and Sean Phillips, a veteran, 10-year veteran. Sacks in the 70s in his career with the San Diego Chargers. You're going to have pressure from both sides for Brandon Albert and also Eric Fisher to deal with.
Well, and that's going to be the important part of staying healthy, of Jamal Charles staying healthy, of Nile Davis developing as a young backup, establishing himself in the passing game as well as the running game. And, you know, from an offensive standpoint, you have to be able to keep pace with a Peyton Manning. You have to be able to put points on the board. And as much as Sean Smith and Dante Robinson bring, and having Justin Houston, Tom Bahali, and Donsari Poe, and Derek Johnson, and everybody bringing pressure on Peyton Manning, you know he's not going to idly sit by and just accept the fact that he's got 10, 13, 17 points. They're going to need to find ways to keep the ball out of his hands, establish the running game, establish ball control with their offense when they're facing Denver, and ultimately when you have some chances at big plays, take advantage of it.
Number 53, Mike Catapano, the Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year out of Princeton. The big tackle there. He also had the tackle to cause the fumble a little bit earlier in the second half, which the Chiefs did recover. 2nd down 9 for Vince Young now as we approach the 3-minute mark, and Alex Green remains the tailback for the Packers. Vince Young hurried, and that pressure leads to the inaccuracy. Anthony Toribio inside, knocking Vince Young down.
You see Toribio and Poe, 95, coming right up the middle. On the backside, Toribio's putting pressure, causing Young to step up, but with Poe's penetration, that's Jarrell Poe, not Dontari Poe, putting that pressure up the middle. Ridge Wilson, also free agent out of West Alabama, number 60, coming in there and putting pressure on Young as well.
3rd down and 9, the Chiefs bring 3, and Vince Young puts the ball on the turf. Ridge Wilson knocks it out of Young's hands.
Back-to-back plays for the free agent out of West Alabama. Coming off that edge, and when Vince Young slides to step up in the pocket, he's able to knock the ball loose. Watch him here on the left side of your screen. He just dips and gets lower and is able to, once again, for you young quarterbacks out there, Vince Young getting pressure in the pocket, goes to slide up. He takes that second hand off the ball. You have the ball in one hand. All it takes is one little flick, and that knocks the ball loose. So if you're feeling pressure, keep 2 hands on the ball and slide up in the pocket.
Packers eventually recover after that little scrum there. Punt return unit on, and Frankie Hammond Jr. back to receive. He's just hoping that one goes into the end zone. Came close, but Packers special teams doing a nice job there. That's Miles White. Admire the special teams play here. 1:53 left. The Chiefs lead by 14. Quarterback for the Chiefs, Tyler Bray, has 2 touchdown passes in this half to Josh Bellamy from 43 yards out. And to end the first half, he found Junior Hemingway in the end zone. And there's your difference. Chiefs lead 20-6. They also have a pair of field goals from Ryan Suckup, who's a perfect 8 for 8 this preseason. I formation, Sean Drone is the tailback. And that is a snap before Tyler expected it.
He better realize once that ball snapped, it's live. He better get out of the end zone. And fortunately,
half the distance to the goal.
Fortunately, he realized it.
Should we blame that on the center since he can't defend himself?
He can't defend himself. Let's see. Oh, well, that's why it was a penalty, because I was like, if he went ahead and snapped it, then it's an active play. The problem is he snapped it halfway, stopped, and then decided to go ahead and finish it after he had started. So had he just went ahead and snapped the ball, then there is no penalty there. It's just Tyler, good luck, because it's a live play.
Eric Kush, the center, a rookie, to the rookie quarterback Tyler Bray, looking for Josh Bellamy again. He had the touchdown pass earlier in this half. Coverage provided by David Fulton for the Packers.
Tyler going for that 99-yard completion. Why not?
I always wanted one. Did you ever get one?
I did. I had one to Bo Richter here in Arrowhead against San Diego in 2004.
What kind of play was that?
It was a 2 tight end set, obviously on the 1-yard line, so everybody thinks you're going to, run the ball out of there. We had a play action pass with Gonzalez and Jason Dunn on drag routes and Mark Bo Richter over the top. The safety decided Gonzalez was more of a target, and Mark beat the corner down the middle of the field. And
speaking of getting beat, Chiefs offensive line gives up a sack for a safety there. That's Sam Barrington. As Tyler Bray goes down to the end zone for 2 points, Green Bay.
Well, this is the problem on back-to-back plays going with passes. It's only a 3-step drop. They come with the blitz. The Packers come with the blitz, coming in that weak side A gap. 3-step drop. You got to understand you're in the end zone, and I know that was on him quick, but dump that ball at the feet of a receiver and move on to 3rd down. Unfortunately, now with the safety, the Chiefs are going to come out and have to punt the ball, and Green Bay gets it back.
A moment ago, we talked about the Denver Broncos, the team that set the pace not only in the AFC West last year, Trent, but they were the #1 seed in the AFC, going 13-3. The big question is, who is the best team out there in the AFC West after the Denver Broncos? Well, here's what the San Diego Chargers have. And for a while, I thought they had one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL with Phillip Rivers. And I'm still a believer that he can play at a high level. But the last couple of seasons, only Mark Sanchez has had more turnovers. So what do they have at receiver? How good can Ryan Matthews be? Can they protect him with Max Starks and the rookie DJ Fluker? All that has to go together for Phillip to get back to that level we were used to seeing him play.
Well, and that's really, Phillip, when he was having a lot of his success, he was surrounded by good receivers, surrounded by a Pro Bowl-laden offensive line. He had LaDainian Tomlinson, and then, of course, LaDainian moves on. And not that Phillip Rivers all of a sudden forgot to play quarterback, but you look at the last 2 years, he's under a lot of pressure. He's had a lot of fumbles from the pocket, the sack fumbles. He's had some poor decisions with his throws. He's been adamant upon the fact that he doesn't have a shoulder problem or an elbow problem. There has been a lot of national pressure about whether or not Phillip is hurt because he's had so many turnovers and maybe he doesn't have the same velocity on the ball. And I think Norv Turner moving on now with the offensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns and Mike McCoy coming in as the head coach for the Chargers. This maybe is something fresh. Sometimes it takes change, and for Phillip, maybe this is exactly what he needs. You can see on the stat right there, 49 times he was sacked. Aaron Rodgers was the only one sacked more, and it wasn't Aaron is because he throws so much. For Phillip Rivers, a lot of it had to do with the depleted offensive line.
We saw at the top of that graphic there, Trent, that the offensive coordinator now, Ken Wisenhunt, in. It's an interesting dynamic there for the play calling in San Diego. Vince Young throwing incomplete there on 1st and 10. So you have Ken Wisenhunt, former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, running the offense. You have Mike McCoy, who ran the offense in Denver along with Peyton Manning last season. I talked to Mike earlier this week, and he said Ken will be calling the plays there. So I thought that was interesting that you have two offensive minds, one former head coach, one former offensive coordinator switching roles, and it's the OC who's going to be calling the plays.
Well, and I think that's Mike recognizing the talent that Ken Whisen had, what he has as an offensive coordinator, and understanding as a head coach, it's more his job, to manage the team and motivate the team, and that's his decision. There are some head coaches that like to call the plays, and Mike has made the decision to make it Ken's job, and I'm sure he's going to have some input. Obviously he's got a lot of background, and you talk about whether it's the Chiefs or the Chargers or the Raiders or whoever it may be that's going to be that second team behind Denver, or shouldn't necessarily give up the division right now, but the second team trying to pursue Denver to take away that division title is, McCoy has the advantage of knowing what that offense does in Denver and relaying those things to his defensive coaches in San Diego.
3rd down and 7. Chiefs bring 3 again. Vince Young. A little bit underthrown there. Miles White couldn't come up with it. In the coverage from Kansas City, Greg Castillo, undrafted free agent rookie safety out of Iowa. San Diego, there's Phillip Rivers in the pockets, and I think a lot too about Tamba Hali and Justin Houston coming off the edge against Max Starks and the rookie DJ Fluker. It would appear it's advantage Kansas City there, but we shall see.
Well, and I think it goes hand in hand with the addition of Sean Smith and Dante Robinson and Brandon Flowers coming back. You have guys that can cover down the field. That makes your pass rushers that much better. And a year ago between Houston and Hali, they had 19 sacks between the two of them, and you can expect bigger and better things from those two guys coming off the edges.
Chief special teams units, especially the return teams of the punt and the kick, continuing to flex those preseason muscles. That's Frankie Hammond Jr. going for 40 or 34 yards.
So once again, making the job of John Dorsey that much more difficult. Frankie Hammond Jr., Rico Richardson coming up with catches, Junior Hemingway coming up with catches. It's been Josh Bellamy came up with a touchdown catch. So, I mean, you talk about these young receivers getting opportunities, making plays, and, somebody's going to make the team and somebody's not, but you continue to make plays. That's what all of a sudden creates another opportunity for another team, somebody that watches this tape and sees this film and recognizes talent that maybe can help out that squad. So young guys have to realize that as well when the frustration sets in that they may not be in Kansas City, but there's 31 other teams out there that you're trying to perform for and ultimately get on a roster.
Cyrus Gray, the second-round player out of Texas A&M, tackled by Chaz Powell, and that's a gain of 4. Clock stops with 12 seconds left in the third quarter.
And as you know, Paul, I say that from experience, just being in San Diego. And, I ultimately was cut my second year in San Diego and bounced around, went to the CFL and trying to make a roster in Washington as the third guy there. So early in my career, that was a continual occurrence. Every training camp I would go to for my first 4 or 5 years in the league, it was trying to establish myself not only for the team I was on, but to make an impact and try and hang in the league as long as I could.
Aaron Rodgers not worried about getting cut, Trent. Not worried about a whole lot here tonight, actually. Check him out on the sideline. You can do that when you are arguably the best quarterback in the league.
Little air guitar.
We are ready for the fourth quarter to begin here inside Arrowhead Stadium, and the Chiefs with a comfortable 20-8 lead. It was 20-6 or 22-6 until late in that third quarter. Tyler Bray taking a safety. Didn't have much of a chance. Disruption on the offensive line. He went down, and it's 20-8 Cyrus Gray. The tailback to Tyler's left. Packers bring the blitz, and Gray runs away from it, sneaks through that line across the 40-yard line, and that'll be a first down, Kansas City. Gray picks up 7 yards. So we talked about the Denver Broncos. We talked about the San Diego Chargers. The other team that Andy Reid going to have to face twice here within the own division. The rivalry between the Oakland Raiders, October 13th and also December 15th. Big story quarterback right now at Oakland, and back when we were talking about quarterback competitions a month ago, somebody told me, don't forget about Matt Flynn against Terrell Pryor. I didn't really think it was a competition, but Pryor getting the start tonight for the Oakland Raiders, and I think if he plays well, could be his job.
Well, and it could be, and the Raiders have had problems along the offensive line trying to protect the quarterback, and quite frankly, Terrell Pryor is more of an athlete, more of a runaround guy than Matt Flynn is going to be, and Matt's had to deal with some injuries and some inconsistency, and if all of a sudden Terrell Pryor gets in there and he establishes himself as someone that can make plays in the pocket, and when things break down, getting outside the pocket and giving him a chance offensively, that may be the direction that they ultimately go. But with the Raiders struggling last season with only 4 wins, we showed that stat with all of the guys and all the changeover that's happened. GM Reggie McKenzie now in his second year, Coach Dennis Allen in their second year, they're trying to establish a new identity for the Raiders and a direction they want to go.
Reggie McKenzie, the longtime Packer in the front office, just like John Dorsey, the GM of the Chiefs now, who spent the last 13 seasons under Ted Thompson in Green Bay. Terrell Pryor is a starting quarterback in the NFL. It felt like when he came out of Ohio State in the supplemental draft that he was so raw. It felt like that opportunity was a long way away. But the chance is here for him right now. Cyrus Gray on 3rd down and less than a yard. Be close to see if he got it. Tackle made by Chaz Powell.
Well, it looks like Andy's pointing to Dave Tobe, saying to go ahead and kick it. They're bringing the guys out on the field. I guess if you're doing more of a game management standpoint from a coaching position, you're a 12-point lead. You get this field goal, makes it 15. So it's, 2-possession game as opposed to 2 touchdowns losing the game. 2 touchdowns needs at least a 2-point conversion somewhere in there. So
Ryan Suckup getting a preseason workout on field goals here, Trent. He's 8 for 8. This one from 48 yards away. That would have been good.
First, team timeout.
It was good, but it would have counted if it wasn't a timeout.
Is it possible they were trying to ice him with 12:24 to go in the 4th quarter that they called the timeout right before the snap? Or based on the look of Mike McCarthy's face and his lips that he just showed, if we could read lips up here, that was not what he was doing, was trying to ice Ryan Suckup.
Did he politely ask, why did we call timeout?
Yes.
He's got a little Kansas City in his coaching background.
He
Mike
does.
McCarthy.
He was on the staff here with Marty Schottenheimer before I came to town. But there's plenty of people still around that had gotten to know Mike and are happy that he's had the success that he's had and moved on and had a chance to be a head coach. And like I said, have the success he's had as a head coach.
He's actually been here in Kansas City for the 101 Awards to receive the NFC Head Coach of the Year a couple years ago. 48 yards out, Ryan Suckup. Can't do it much better than that. Right down the middle, lots of leg to spare, and he is now 9 for 9 field goals in the preseason. 12:19 left here at Arrowhead in the 4th quarter of preseason game number 4. Chiefs up 23-8.
Welcome back to Arrowhead. My name is Lori Gentry with the score, Chiefs leading 23-8. The Missouri Classic is headed to Arrowhead Saturday, September 14th. Don't miss this action as former Super Bowl MVP Doug Williams leads the Grambling State Tigers against past Super Bowl champion Mike Jones and the Lincoln Blue Tigers. Tickets are available at all Ticketmaster locations now. And now back up to the professionals, Paul and Trent.
Just like she is, Trent. I'm saying 2 for 2.
That was pretty clean. That's two clean ones in a row.
She's very much like Ryan Suckup in the preseason. She hasn't missed yet. 2 out of 2.
And how about that game? Doug Williams coming in, Grambling head coach.
Yeah.
Former Super Bowl MVP, and then Mike Jones, my former teammate with the Rams, got inducted to the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, and now the head coach at Lincoln. That's going to be an exciting football game.
Doug Williams was at 4 touchdown passes in the 2nd quarter.
How about that?
In 1 quarter, the old Jack Murphy Stadium.
The Murph.
I think Tom Bahali, it's not Aaron Rodgers playing the air guitar on the other sideline, but he is proving that he's relaxed and just kind of hanging out tonight.
Is it the Gilligan hat that made you think he's relaxed?
Just any hat at all. That's not a baseball hat.
That is not a baseball.
That's the kind of hat that says, I'm on this team.
That's right.
I'm not worried about the cut.
Not only am I going to wear a Gilligan hat, I'm going to flip the front of it up and then have the little rope thing around my neck. And, oh, look, Dwayne Bowe's got the same
Dwayne
one.
can wear it as well.
Okay, yes. There's only certain people. Let's see how many guys we can see wearing that hat. And those may be the only two because they don't have anything to worry about. These guys are just baseball hat guys.
Baseball
Alex can get one. Anthony Pizzano can get one.
Those are just straight up baseball hats, though. That's not quite the statement.
That's right.
You need to get one of those up here for you to wear.
Speaking about making a statement, Dwayne Bowe was telling us that he affectionately calls Coach Reed Big Red. And I said, how many other guys on the team call Coach Reed Big Red? And he goes, nobody, just me. I said, oh, okay. Well, that's what comes with job security, I guess.
You're the number one receiver with a nice new contracts.
Big Red it is.
And he had 6 catches last week, which was a big story because he didn't have any in the previous 2 games. Moody with the tackle there for Kansas City, but that's a gain of 10 for the Green Bay running game. James Starks.
And we're not going to give Dwayne complete credit for the Big Red nickname because that was established in Philadelphia, and Dwayne had caught wind of it, from some guys over there. But he is the only one brave enough up until this point. You can see Dexter McCluster to his right, Donnie Avery to his left. I bet those guys aren't calling him Big Red yet.
Yeah, Dwayne Bowe was an interesting first week in March. Remember, it went all the way up. It was approaching the time where are they going to sign him to the franchise tag? Are they going to give him a long-term contract? And as we know, they invested in him long-term, 5 years, $56 million. And there is your number 1 wide receiver for Alex Smith and Big Red for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and he seems much more at peace. We had a chance to talk to him several times. I talked to him up at training camp. We talked to him in production meetings. He's just really in a good place. He likes what Andy Reid has brought. He likes what Doug Peterson has brought. Dave Culley, the wide receiver coach, has brought a great presence to the wide receiver meeting room, to the practice field. Just having that type of coach has been invaluable, to Dwayne. And he's excited about what this team can do this year and excited about what the offense can do.
Vince Young fires incomplete there on 2nd down, bringing up 3rd down and 8. You mentioned Doug Peterson, and as I was studying this team in the spring and the summer and getting excited to come here to Kansas City for all the preseason games, it kind of struck me how many former and recent NFL players are on the staff. You start out with Doug Peterson, but you also have Andy Heck on the offensive line, Eugene Chung, Eric Bieniemy coaching the running backs. Then you go over to defense, the man who knows the Packers very well, Al Harris, played 14 seasons in the NFL, the bulk of them with the Packers. He's working with the DBs.
Well, it is, and Andy's done a good job over the course of his career giving young coaches, young guys that are trying to transition from being players into coaches, giving them opportunities, to learn the coaching profession, and he's had a lot of success doing that. And once again, as you just mentioned, the guys that he's bringing in, Al Harris has had quite a bit of success as a player at Green Bay.
There he is. This coming just after Matt Hasselbeck says, we want the ball, we're going to score. Remember that playoff game?
Oh, yeah.
Al picked him off right there.
The good thing is I knew Matt at that time, so I knew where he was coming from with just the joke of it all.
Right.
It wasn't received that way around the country until people realized that,
he's got a big personality.
Yes, he does.
Nothing wrong with that. Frankie Hammond Jr. back to receive. And he's had lots of opportunities here to catch Dave Tobe's eye with his returning ability. Nice cut upfield, and there he goes again. Frankie Hammond Jr. inside Packer territory. His second big return of the night brought down by Sam Barrington, but Hammond Jr. goes for 45 yards moments after he went for 36.
Welcome back to Arrowhead Stadium. I'm here with Justin Houston. Justin, 23-8 Chiefs. What are your thoughts on the game so far?
I think it's a good game for us. A lot of the young guys are showing their talent. They're stepping up to the plate and making plays out there.
So last year, 10 sacks. With Bob Sutton's defense, do you think you can surpass that number this year?
I definitely think so. Just as a team effort, the things we can do as a whole, I think it'll just make the team better and open up for me to make more plays.
Top of the league in sacks, like I said, and then Pro Bowler last year. What are some of your goals for this season?
I just want to win. That's whatever it do to take to win. I'm gonna do my job plus more if I can. But if I need to make more plays, I'm definitely gonna try or do make more plays. I just want to win.
How do you feel the team is coming together and is ready for Jacksonville?
We're making a lot of progress. We're coming together as a family. That's the one thing you're playing for a friend, but you're playing for a brother that's totally different. You want to play a whole lot harder. So I think we're making a lot of steps towards the right way.
Being back at Arrowhead or already hearing all these fans cheering for you, what's it been like being back in this stadium?
Oh, it's been great, man. I'm ready for the first game here. It's gonna be crazy out here. I know the fans going wild already. It's gonna be a great year.
Thank you, Justin.
All right, Rachel, thank you. And I think it's safe to call Justin Houston not only a rising star on this team and in the AFC West, I think a rising defensive star in the entire National Football League based off of what he can do getting after the passer.
Well, and I think it's impressive not only when you can see the size of him as he's walking away. I was at training camp many times, and it just so happened I was walking down the hill to practice with him, and I looked over, and my boys happened to be with me the one day, and they're like, "Look at the size of him," and I said, "Yeah." I said that's probably why I retired is guys like that. You know, you see guys that big and that fast. He does a great job getting after the pass rush or getting after the passer. But because of that size, because of that speed, he has a number of different moves. You know, you could be a speed rusher, you could be a power rusher, you could be, you know, a bull rusher. You know, there's different things you can do with that type of size and speed. And Justin, the combination of Tamba and Dontar pushing in the middle of that pocket should be a big season for them.
Ease of the hands, 51 defense, 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
And you mentioned him with Tamba Hali, and I think I pointed this out in New Orleans at game number 1, but the similarity sacking the passer in the first couple of years, it's amazing. 15.5 sacks for Tamba Hali his first 2 years. 15.5 sacks for Justin Houston his first 2 years.
Well, and I think, you know, Justin is an eager young player wanting to establish himself and get better. And, you know, you have a guy like Tamba Hali who constantly works at his craft. I know last week we talked in the game about, you know, Tamba was out in before pregame warm-ups even started. You mentioned in last week's broadcast that he was drenched from head to toe. Mm-hmm. This was an hour and a half before kickoff, and that's just the work ethic that he brings. And, you know, he can bring that and show that, you know, to a young player like Justin Houston and, you know, establish that tempo and that work ethic for his career.
They're down at 12. Tyler Bray firing it deep for Rico Richardson. Get a little idea of the arm strength there, because a lot of quarterbacks can throw it from point A to point B like that, but there wasn't much. I mean, that ball didn't have much air under it. He just kind of rifled it down there.
Well, and that's going to be something that he has to learn on a lot of these deep routes, especially with that tight of coverage. You want to put a little air under it so your receiver can make some adjustments in the air, whether it be, you know, I've got to slow down, jump up and get it, I've got to accelerate to go get it, I've got to get inside leverage, I've got to, you know, wall the defender off. As you mentioned, Paul, that was a 50-yard rope. Right?
Cyrus Gray on the screen pass and wrapped up just after he got to the line of scrimmage. I remember being in Minnesota at a minicamp in my time there trying to make that team, and Brian Billick telling me after a pass like that, he's like, "Son, come here." He goes, "Don't show off your arm strength there." He goes, "Get some air under that. Otherwise, you've got to be perfect with the throw."
Right.
And most of us aren't that perfect. So give yourself a chance to complete it, put some air under it. Then you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be in the area.
Well, and that's interesting that Brian Billick made those comments too, because I can remember back in my early time with the Washington Redskins, Norv Turner was the head coach, and he said those same things to me. You know, don't feel like you have to show your arm strength and put a rope on it. He's like, I would rather you throw the ball earlier and put some air on it, let the receiver make some adjustments, put some air on it, get it up out of your hands. You're taking the pressure off the offensive line by getting the ball up quickly, but you're also giving your receiver some time to make adjustments when it's in the air, and those are it's all part of the learning curve.
Bray doing a nice job there, sliding in the pocket, finding an open lane to Junior Hemingway. For the second game in a row, Hemingway has a touchdown catch. Last week in Pittsburgh, he hauled one in from Alex Smith. And then late in the first half, he caught one from Tyler Bray. 7 catches tonight for 80 yards to go along with that one touchdown. Back to the air on first down. Bray flushed out of the pocket, had that one knocked down by Jolly as he threw in the direction of Josh Bellamy.
Well, Tyler's done a nice job. He's had Chase played into the second quarter, but this has been Tyler's game since then, and he did have the one interception but he's responded well to that, and that's really what young quarterbacks, really that's what all quarterbacks have to do, but that's a big test for young quarterbacks. How are you going to come back after facing adversity, after having a play go against you? How are you going to react to that? How are you going to lead your team? Are you going to come back very confidently and continue to make throws and squeeze things in there? And he's done that. He's done a nice job firing the ball in there in between lanes when he's had to. He's obviously had the nice touchdown pass down the sideline, showing his arm strength.
Cyrus Gray off the left side, second-year running back out of Texas A&M. First down and then some for KC. Tackle made by Chaz Powell for Green Bay. Cyrus Gray off the left side there for 17 yards. And Tyler Gray, you're talking about some of the nice things he's done here tonight. 13 out of 22, $160, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick.
Cyrus Gray, coming out of college, he was a guy that had a good burst, a good 40 time, a good speed in the open field, and right there after getting the handoff, makes a quick adjustment behind the line of scrimmage, hits the hole, and you can see that speed when he bounces to the outside to pick up the first down.
Cyrus Gray again inside, out of the shotgun to the late draw, and at Texas A&M, he had over 6,400 all-purpose yards at that time 2 years ago. That was third all-time in Big 12 history, finishing with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. 6th-round selection last year.
Well, it's interesting to see some of the things that Green Bay is doing on this drive, and actually has done the last couple of drives. We talked about Bob Sutton and his aggressive nature as a defensive coordinator. On the other side of the ball with Green Bay, Dom Capers as defensive coordinator is equally known for his zone blitzes and pressure packages, and he's brought the secondary on the last couple plays trying to get into the backfield to slow down this running game as it's moving along here in the fourth quarter.
Cyrus Gray dropped by Mike Daniels, former Iowa Hawkeye.
I knew it. We got what do we got? 5:40 left in the game.
I want to see if you were paying attention.
That's right. Yes.
I know your Hoosiers have already scored like 70 points tonight.
Well, you know, with all the Iowa talent that's been around here, you know, you got to go back, even the classics, when you talk about quarterbacks in Iowa Hawkeyes. Mark Vlasic being an Iowa quarterback, playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. So he's the last Iowa as they get a touchdown.
A Tennessee quarterback with a touchdown toss to a former Florida wide receiver, Tyler Gray, to Frankie Hammond Jr. for another Kansas City touchdown.
And that's 3 touchdowns for Tyler. Nice job leading the team down the field. They did a good job with the running game. Here they mix it up, just hit him on a quick slant. Once again, making John Dorsey's job difficult. Frankie Hammond Jr. coming up with a big catch. He's had a couple of good returns.
So what do Junior Hemingway, Josh Bellamy, and Frankie Hammond Jr. all have in common tonight? Touchdown catch from Tyler Gray. His first 3 of his preseason. Tyler Gray now 14 out of 24, 169 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the Chiefs with a 30-8 lead. Look at the Hy-Vee drive of the half. Hy-Vee, a helpful smile in every eye. Tyler Gray, that's his second touchdown pass of the night. That one came earlier in the second half. Josh Bellamy got wide open, dove in. Looking slow-mo, yes, he did get in. And moments ago, Tyler fired his 3rd touchdown pass of the night to Frankie Hammond Jr. And the Chiefs leading 30-8.
Nice crowd here tonight. As you mentioned, it was a little warm, but think about the Packers and Vince Young when they're down in this far end zone for us and the amount of crowd noise that was happening. Everybody's excited about football. Looking forward to it. You know, opening game's going to be down in Jacksonville where it's going to be a little steamy for the players, but the home opener, it's got the Cowboys coming into town. So
this kid still has homework.
What are the chances that gets done?
Tonight? Mom and Dad gonna have to help a whole lot.
Hopefully his teacher saw that and is gonna give him a break.
He's at the game.
See, I was really at the game. Just watch the replay. See the TV.
That's right. He has evidence.
That's right.
There he is. We're back after this.
Arrowhead Stadium. I'm here with Brandon Albert. Brandon, this O-line is a young group. You're a veteran. How are you taking the charge, showing these guys the ropes?
Just basically trying to come and work every day and just show the guys that it's going to be a lot of work got to be put into this every day, every play, every minute, and especially with the regular season coming down. Like, we got to put our foot to the grind and make sure that we are on our P's and Q's, that everything go right. And we are young, but we're working towards being great. That's what we're trying to be.
What's your relationship like with Alex Smith?
I think Alex Smith is a great quarterback, and especially more important, a great person. Like, when I came in late into OTAs, and he was the first one to greet me, man, and say how, he was glad I was here. So, that's something that, it's embedded in my mind. Like, I want to protect him. In the huddle, he's real calm, cool, and collective, and that's what you want to block for, somebody like that. And I got a lot of respect for Alex Smith.
And you had told me before at camp when we talked that you kind of taken Eric Fisher under your wing. Mm-hmm. How is he developing?
He's coming along. It's going to be a process with him, but he's working hard towards it. And I think he's going to be a hell of a player. But it's going to be a process. He's going to take his lumps and bumps, but it's a work in progress.
And what is it that you're learning from Coach Heck?
I'm learning everything. Learning that you got to come to work every day. He press upon me that that I come to work and I come with energy and I come with a purpose, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Rachel referencing Andy Heck, the former first-round pick, I believe with the Seattle Seahawks. Nice long career in the National Football League, and we talked about that earlier. How many positions inside this building go to work and can coach with the experience on their resume that they played in the National Football League.
Well, and that's an important thing for Brandon to absorb. You're a guy that's been there and done that. And we talked a little bit earlier about Al Harris and what his work with the secondary. And, not only Andy Heck, but Eugene Chung is helping out with that offensive line. So you have two guys that had long careers in the National Football League, had success in the National Football League. And that should carry over to the players and make them listen that much more.
What I also heard Brandon say was that he liked Alex Smith a lot, and he wants to protect him. That's a very good thing for your left tackle to like you.
Well, and I think the first impression was valuable for Brandon. He made that very clear that Alex came up to him the very first day, very first person when he signed and was in the locker room. And that's smart by Alex. He's no dummy. Your linemen are the ones that take care of you. So it's always good to make sure that they have your back.
Rico Richardson, he had the game-winning touchdown last week in overtime against Pittsburgh, the touchdown reception from Chase Daniel. Let's look at the keys to tonight's game presented by the University of Kansas Hospital, the official healthcare provider of the Chiefs.
Well, start fast, stay healthy. Those are goals that we've had throughout this entire preseason, but fighting for a roster spot, we've talked about that at length tonight. And when you talk about backup safety, Tyson Hartman showed up, Hussein Abdullah did early. Bradley McDougal, the free agent out of Kansas, he's stepped up several times these last few plays. Josh Martin, outside linebacker, he's been making plays. Drakeford, inside linebacker. Ridge Wilson, you have a lot of young guys that are getting opportunities, and they're showing themselves all over the field. And we haven't even mentioned those wide receivers that have been tearing it up.
Right.
The number of catches they've had, the touchdowns they've had. So it's been a nice job all the way around by these young guys, getting an opportunity to play, making the most of it, and trying to establish themselves for this final 53.
Touchdown catches tonight for Andy Reid there. The three wide receivers Trent talked about, Junior Hemingway, Josh Bellamy, and also Frankie Hammond Jr. Since we're watching the offense, what do you think the toughest decisions are going to be for John Dorsey, the general manager, getting from 75 down to 53?
Well, the toughest is going to be those receiver spots. We've had these young guys step up. Devin gets hurt, so what's the extent of his injury? But then between Bellamy, Hammond Jr., Rico Richardson, Junior Hemingway, those are guys that have made a lot of plays tonight, made a lot of plays last week. Those are going to be tough decisions. Running back, who are you keeping as your third between Cyrus Gray and Sean Drone? Both of them have played well. Both have had opportunities. Who's more of an impactful player on special teams?
Right.
What are you going to do with Tony Moiaki? Travis Kelce, Kevin Brock, Demetrius Harris. You got some talent at tight end that you have to make some decisions as well.
At the 2-minute mark, a couple of second-half touchdown passes from Tyler Bray. Comfortable lead for the Chiefs with 2 minutes left. As preseason comes to a close, 2 minutes left in the final game. Chiefs up 30-8. We start to really think about regular season game number 1, 10 days from now in Jacksonville against the Jaguars, and that's how it all starts. Game 1 of the Andy Reid era in Kansas City. A new coach there as well. Gus Bradley was so good as a defensive coordinator in Seattle.
Well, and not only Gus Bradley, but you saw Luke Jokel, the number 2 overall pick, who has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because the Kansas City Chiefs had the number 1 pick and took Eric Fisher over him. So that'll be interesting to see how he does. You know, I'm sure Bob Sutton's going to have some surprises when you've got a rookie tackle, just like Fisher's going to have to expect some. Jokel should expect some as well.
We kind of know what to expect from Alex Smith, the way he's played the last 3 or 4 years, especially at a high level the last couple. I'm still not quite sure what to expect from Blaine Gabbert in Jacksonville, entering season number 3. What are your thoughts there?
Well, and unfortunately for Blaine, he's had to go through another coaching change.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Another coaching change, another offense. He's a young guy trying to establish himself, trying to stay healthy. You know, he's had a lot of pressure on him. There's a reason they took Luke Jokel with the 2nd overall pick. They had some problems with the offensive line. So, you know, all those factors in there, you know, around these parts, people are very, they like Blaine Gabbert, obviously being a Missouri Tiger, but he's had an up and down start to his career, and one that he wants to try and establish himself once again with the new head coach.
A number of people we'd like to thank here as we are starting to bring preseason to a close. It starts with the executive producer of Chiefs Preseason Football, Jodain Massad. That's a nice headshot of Jodain. I think that was a couple weeks ago, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, Ryan Galvin, the producer, who has to put up with us all evening long. He's the man who runs the truck. That's a nice shot. Andy Goldberg. I think I would have picked him out. I think I would have recognized that shot of Andy.
That's right.
He's the director working alongside Ryan in the truck. Both of those guys, high-level professionals.
I think Andy still has that same haircut, doesn't he?
I said I could have picked him out. That's Andy Goldberg.
Just having fun with you, Andy.
Rob Schmall, our unit manager, and our operations manager, Dana Dew. What happened to the headshots? I like the pictures. Technical managers, beginning with Joe Schaubhedel, just one. That's right. Singular, not plural. Also, one associate director, Rudy Guzman, and associate producers, Lucas Leidy and also Ben Powers. Third down and 1 here for Vince Young with his team trailing 30-8. And that's a late flag coming in. Greg Castillo going to get called with the flag here. Technical directors, Brad Woodall and also Phil Weller. Thanks for all they've done for the past 4 games here. Graphics, Lisa Settles. And a couple to thank here on senior audio, Ken Farney and also Ryan Miller. Senior producer, Brad Young. And the Chiefs producer, that's Adam Pellegrino. Content producers, we have a number there. Kevin Breener, Evan Miller, Brock Rahm, and also Nate Vaughn. And a huge thanks from me and everybody to Dana Witt. Does so much to make this experience a really, really good one every July and August. Thank you to Dana. It's Young across the middle there on 1st and 10. Ball's out. And the Packers come up with it. And a big thanks to the executive in charge of production. I know him as the Chiefs president and the former Princeton quarterback, Mark Donovan. Thanks to everyone who makes this my 2nd year in a row doing it, but just something I look forward to every summer.
Well, and you notice how they didn't, we had pictures of Mark earlier when we had him in the booth, but they didn't put the picture up again.
He went to Brown. My apologies.
Yes.
My apologies to Mark. Can't go wrong with an Ivy League schooler, right?
That's right.
And that may very well be, although it looks like Vince is rushing, somewhat rushing, the Packers to the line of scrimmage, maybe to get off another play or two.
The Paul, I've enjoyed it. This is our second year working together in the booth, and 2 wins in a row now for the Chiefs heading into the Jacksonville game. The Chiefs have to feel good about it, but I've enjoyed once again working these preseason games with you, and good luck with your continued success at NFL Network, and
we hope anyway.
Broadcasting some Big Ten Network games this year. So
yeah, heading up to Iowa City tomorrow. We call the Hawkeye opener.
That's hard to believe that they would pick you to do an Iowa game.
I know. For some reason, they have me next to Chuck Long instead of Mark Vlasic. I don't know who was in charge of that, Trent. Maybe you could call somebody.
We're going to have to get that. Well, you have your receiver, one of your
Danon
receivers. Danon Hughes, yeah, former Chief.
On the sideline.
Going up to work the sidelines with you. So heavy Hawkeye contingent in that broadcast.
Yeah. 3 for 3 there. Danon Hughes, I believe, is already up there. Casey Wigman is back.
Casey is up there, yeah. He just sent us a text message today saying that he's going up to Iowa City, taking his son up to go to the game. So
he's not part of the broadcast as far as I know.
He is not part of the broadcast. Although, you know what? I bet Danon could probably track him down on the sidelines and get a little interview with him. So 3 seconds to go in this game, 30-8.
Trent, what do you have the Thursday night radio broadcast?
Yeah, Ian Eagle and myself, we do the Thursday night NFL games for Dial Global, which is the national radio feed for the Thursday night NFL games. So my first game is going to be the Jets at the Patriots.
That's a good one. And your third one will be?
Actually, I got bumped off of that one because Boomer Esiason has that game. So Philly going, or Kansas City going to Philly, Boomer Esiason will have that one. So I'll get to sit home with my boys and my family and enjoy that game from my couch. So
little smile there from Alex Smith. Says goodbye to the preseason, and he looks forward to the game in Jacksonville a week from Sunday. That's going to do it for Chiefs preseason football. Game number 4 right here at Arrowhead Stadium sees Kansas City win 30-8. 3 touchdown passes for Tyler Bray, the rookie undrafted free agent from Tennessee. For Trent Green and Rachel Sanchi and our entire crew, I'm Paul Burmeister. Thanks for being with us tonight and the entire preseason. Good night from Kansas City and enjoy the regular season.